hearing. Hello, everyone. We are starting our notice of a public hearing on July 26, 2021, pursuant to Section 405-406 of the New Milford Charter. The New Milford Town Council shall hold a public hearing to receive public comment and discuss the revision of the youth agency ordinance so as to conform to the terms and content relating to statutory regulatory membership and grant requirements pursuant of Connecticut General Statutes 10-19M and regulations of Connecticut state agencies adopted thereunder. Copies of the proposed revised Youth Agency and Youth Service Bureau Advisory Board are on file and available to review in the Town Clerk's office. Said hearing shall be held Monday, 6:15 E. Paul Martin Room, floor of the Town Hall, 10 Main Street. Do we have any, before we go into public, I'd like to ask our Youth Agency Director, Jason O'Connor, to kind of give a summary of what we're doing. Jason?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, public. The New Milford Youth Agency participates in the State of Connecticut's Youth Service Bureau grant with funding and oversight provided by the Department of Children and Families. Per this grant, there are mandates regarding the advisory board composition for the Youth Service Bureaus participating in the state grant process. By revising the Youth Agency's town ordinance, it allows the New Milford Youth Agency, New Milford Youth Service Bureau, to be compliant with the state's YSB grant and DCF oversight guidelines. Proper grant compliance ensures state funds are not compromised or interrupted, and that the Youth Agency can continue to obtain state YSB funding for youth programming, including youth employment, pro-social and leadership opportunities, social emotional development, and now additionally for our expansion of counseling services.
Thank you, Jason. And kind of clarify public thought processes. This is something that we've spoken to the council before. For you to obtain grant funding, additional federal and state aid, we actually have to have this mechanism in place for you to be able to do that.
Sorry, what was that? Hard to hear.
This change allows you to be able to get and obtain additional federal and state financing.
Correct.
Funding.
Correct.
Through grants.
This alignment allows us to pursue additional funding and bring into alignment within the state statutes of Connecticut.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak at the public hearing? Seeing as that we have none, we are going to close this public hearing, and then we are going to have our regular town council at 7 p.m. this evening. Thank you, everyone. Okay. All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to our town council meeting. It is now at 6:59, so we're going to wait 30 seconds. And then, Walter, I will ask you if you could lead us in the pledge, sir.
Don't forget the public participation, too. Public participation. Don't forget the public participation. Just check. 'Cause I know.
And we have 7 o'clock. So if we could all stand for the pledge and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a moment of silence for the men and women in the armed forces and their first responders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Walter, as you're grabbing the public participation, I'd like, with the council's patience, I would like to present a flag that's been flown over our town hall to one of our new National Guardsmen, which is Kevin Meskel. Kevin, can you stand for a moment? The thing we started doing is just as a small token of the town's appreciation for our men and women that serve in this country. We can really thank you for your service. Starting out now, coming out of basic, we want to congratulate you, offer you this flag. It's been flown. We'd like to read this certification, certificate of recognition. Kevin Meskel. The town of New Milford would like to recognize one of the newest members of the U.S. Army National Guard, Kevin Meskel. Kevin graduated U.S. Army Basic Training, AIT, in November 2020. His job specialty will be military police. He is assigned to the Connecticut Army National Guard. Young men and women from New Milford are continuing to prove that we are in New Milford proud and strong by serving our country in the United States military. Thank you. Best of luck in all you do, sir. Thank you. Okay. Walter, public comment, sir.
Pat Erickson, please. Heather?
Good evening, Pat Erickson, 65 Buckingham Road, New Milford. I'm here tonight because I've been following all the town council meetings at home all the time. Basically, I can't take these chairs with my bad back. But I heard you say that you would like some information from the public on what they thought might be some good uses for the $7 million that we are going to have 4 years to spend. And that was music to my ears. I have been trying through many administrations, and I know there's a reason it's never been done. We just, there's only certain projects we can do in this town, and money only goes so far, and you have to answer to the taxpayers. But I'd like you to visualize something for me. Think about being downtown New Milford in the middle of a snowstorm, lightly falling snow, the trees all lit up, wandering by all your local stores with Christmas music playing. All the downtown shoppers. Well, years ago, I would go to veterans events, any events on the green, Memorial Day. And if you're not standing right in front of everybody, you don't hear anything. So I reached out to some towns that had the systems, the sound systems, and I said, what would we need to do? Who can you connect me with? So I reached out to a gentleman several years ago. This is an old thing. It was obviously never put out to bid, and he gave me things that we didn't really need. I would visualize it going down Main Street, going down Bank Street, Railroad Street, and then maybe adding on to Young's Field, since we're going to make a beautiful Young's Field eventually. What he gave me, it's a wireless system and you would have a computer that controls the songs. I'm thinking that maybe to use the monies, it could also be used for public service announcements. If the mayor needs to make an announcement, if there's anything going on. We use the green continually. But the gentleman gave me Main Street, Bridge Street, Church Street, Whittlesey Avenue, Boardman Terrace, Elm Street, the center of the green, and down the other end of Bridge Street, and Boardman Terrace, and more on Elm Street. And we would have to install them ourselves, and most towns have their public works do it. It's just small speakers that are mounted on, we could do it on our flagpoles. You would have sound throughout the whole green. This estimate at that time, and a lot of it was not necessary for some of these streets, was $46,000. And I'm sure if we put this out to bid, that we could do much, much better, and I'm sure our public works could do it. But can you just imagine how much of a difference it would make in our downtown when we use this facilities? And if they do, get farther with Youngsfield and the Riverwalk, to put a couple of transmitter speakers down there, I just think it would really improve. And at the same time, hook up Wi-Fi on the green. So when you've got people coming into town looking for a hotspot when they want to go shopping at our local stores, they've got a hotspot to use. So I thank you for your time. I hope you will consider it, and I appreciate all you do. I only had 2 hours sleep last night because I'm a brand new grandma, so I'm going home.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Carl Dunham, please.
Twice I dropped it. Take care, Carl.
Hi, good evening. It's nice to be here. It's nice to see everybody. I was inspired by a video that I looked at about 20 minutes ago of our mayor encouraging that we came, we spoke, and we gave our ideas and our thoughts to our fellow townsmen. One thing that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, and it's been kind of a little bit of a passion of mine, but I think it deserves real thought and encouragement by everybody in town, and that is upgrading the railroad such that it can handle better freight, which will get some of the trucks off the road, and in addition to that, more importantly, initiate again since 1971 passenger service all the way up from Danbury up through Pittsfield. Now, the vision is this. This has been going on in other areas. Massachusetts has taken great steps on their rail transportation plan, not only east-west, but they've acquired the Housatonic line from Canaan north all the way up to Pittsfield. Not only have they acquired it, but they're in the process of, right now, upgrading it. And the thought is to use passenger service on that. We happen to be the weak link in Connecticut. And it kind of goes unnoticed, unthought of, and I know our political clout is not what it could be in other parts of the state, but I really think the town and everybody in this whole corridor should look to push on this. The timing is perfect. The rails need to be upgraded as they are. The use of them can be done with the existing corridor. Nobody's expecting to change anything. It's just a matter of relaying them. And then in addition to that, our current thought is to have passenger service not only from end to end, but intermodally. So it would stop in all the towns, and that way you would be adding to the town's activities and their cultural and their economic interests by stopping in the existing stations. And in addition to that, these passenger trains that we're talking about are not heavy trains. They're light. They're individual cars. They're up to date. They're state of the art. And that's why I think it could be well received for investment, even on a national basis. But I would like to encourage the town to do whatever they can to get this going. It's been a conversation that's been on the back burner for a long time, but there's activity at both ends. And I just think that it's a great time to get this done. So that's my thought.
Carl, can you state your address for the record, please?
My name is Carl Dunham, 195 Candlewood Mountain Road in New Milford. Okay?
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Carl. Brian McDonald, please.
My name is Brian McDonald. My address is 10 Skydecoke Trail. I'm the current president of the New Milford Dog Park. And about 3 weeks ago, I approached Mayor Bass with some news that while we've always been self-supporting, this will be our 11th year come next month. And actually, the idea started a little over 13 years ago, right in this room. We've always relied on donations, membership fees of $20 a year from people that use the park. But this year and last year, while the park usage has been up, the membership has been down. Right now, I currently have 23 members, which is 2 members more than when I spoke with Mayor Bass 3 weeks ago. We're not going to be able to cover our expenses this year, and I didn't know whether we should use the money that we have left to tear down the fences and close the park, or what we should do. Mayor Bass thought that it would be a shame if that happened because, right now, I just got my dog license last week, and I was number 1,300 of dogs that are currently in New Milford, that are licensed in New Milford. If you go by that park on Pickett District Road, especially on the weekends, any time of the day, you'll see dogs and people there. We have a lot of apartment people, condo people that don't have places to walk their dogs. They take them there. They get a chance to let the dogs run, socialize. We clean up after the dogs, or you're supposed to clean up after your own dog. But just cutting the grass, we have a $1,800 a year insurance bill that we have to pay now. The poop bags for the dogs. We're just not cutting it this year, and he thought that he might be able to approach the council and see if you guys could help us, hopefully just as a one-time deal, because the park was always funded under the idea that we would be self-supporting through our own members, and up until this year, we've done that. So if you could see your mind to that, that would be great. If not, then we know what we got to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of the list, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Walter. Katie?
Okay. We'll move on to item 3. I'd like to move to accept consent agenda items 3A, B, and C.
Second.
Thank you.
Dave?
Could we just do the prior minutes individually and then the other two lumped together, please?
I certainly can. So I'll amend my motion. Move items 3A and B. You want a second?
No, I think he wants to do B and C, right?
No, just a single vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave, I thought you wanted the two. Okay, let me amend that again. Item 3A.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Okay.
Oh, for A, abstain.
Yep. Okay, Katie?
Okay, all done?
All
Okay.
done.
I'd like to move that we accept consent agenda items 3B and C.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I just would like to note that item C was a donation of $750 from an anonymous donor to the New Milford Youth Agency. They would like to thank the donor, and they are requesting that the donation be placed in account 1044-1900-48400.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Great. Item 4, move to approve the appointment of Joseph Traiano as an alternate to the Board of Finance. His term would be July 26th of 2021 through January 31st of 2022. He'd be filling a vacancy.
Second.
And we have Joe. Joe, would you like to come up and introduce yourself to the council?
Hi, I'm Joe Triano. I spoke at the last town council meeting. I've lived in the town for 39 years, and I'm happy to volunteer and fill the vacancy and help out and keep this town as great as it's always been and help improve things. I'm on the Board of Finance with my local church, the Church of Christ here in the Milford, and I'm happy to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
There's no party affiliation indicated here. Is there a party affiliation?
There is, as an R,
There's an R
Left
next
was in there.
to the left.
Oh, over there. Wow. Okay.
in the margin area.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Mayor's comments?
And if it's okay with the council, I'd like to push back my comments and allow Lisa to give us an update from the health department for COVID prior. Then after Lisa, Dr. Jeremy Levin had given me a letter to read to you as he is unavailable tonight, if that's okay with the council.
It's okay.
Okay, Lisa?
Good evening, everyone. As always, it's my pleasure to be here with you, so thank you very much. So I'm going to try to keep it brief because Dr. Levin always does a better job than I do with summarizing a lot of the science. So I'll keep it strictly to what we're doing local and what we're seeing local. So similarly to the state and the rest of the country, we too are also seeing an uptick in cases here in New Milford. So there's two numbers that I can give you. So the first number is the percentage, which is the scarier of the two. So we're seeing roughly about a 500% increase in cases from 1 week to the next week, which sounds really scary. But then I'm going to quantify that for you because, you know, numbers can be a little bit misleading. So when you go from having 0 cases a week to 5 cases a week, that's a 500% increase. So we had 5 cases in 1 week, and that translated to a roughly 500% increase. When you take that number by itself, it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but then when we look at our surrounding towns and the large cities that surround us, they're reporting anywhere from 200 to 600% increases, and sometimes that looks like 40 and 50 new cases in a 48-hour period. So there is some concern that we are picking up there. We have been seeing locally and in our region some breakthrough cases of COVID-19 in people who are vaccinated. So we're just reminding people to continue doing the things that you have been doing, washing your hands, if you're going to be in a group of large people and you don't know their vaccination status, we're encouraging mask wearing. We're preparing for the fall with anxiously awaiting the update from the state as far as what the expectation is and what the guidelines would be for returning to school this fall. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what we do know. We do know that there will be masking on the buses this fall, and that's coming from the federal government, not from the state or local health. We don't know whether masks will be required in school. We're waiting for the state to make a determination as to what they'll be doing with that. We do know that we have secured the ability to do COVID-19 testing locally through our health department, and that was a really big step for us locally because right now, when I take a look at all of the testing that happens for our residents, the vast majority of people who are getting tested for COVID-19 who are New Milford residents are choosing to use the doc's urgent care. We're also seeing a lot of testing happening through CVS. The smallest portion of people are actually going to their primary care, whether that's a pediatrician, internal medicine, or family doctor. So the vast majority of people are using urgent care. That's concerning because a lot of people are being charged up to $150 a test. So it presents some type of financial challenge for a lot of people. So the ability to really offer that testing to people with their ability to pay was really important to us. We'll be offering the PCR testing, we'll be offering antigen testing, and I think I already talked to you all about we'll continue to do the COVID-19 vaccinations, and we're also going to be adding flu vaccine. And that really is because we are anticipating that the acute care system, our hospitals, there's going to be the additional burden of all the respiratory viruses, assuming that, and I think I feel very safe in saying this, I don't see a widespread return to masking. So that being said, we are preparing that we do need to do some additional support to the acute care system by doing that testing service and the vaccination services to try to remove some of that burden. As far as vaccination rates, we are looking really good. We're still doing better than the state average for our 12 to 15-year-olds. Just under 47% have had at least their first dose. Just over 40% have received both doses. For our 16 to 44-year-olds, almost 66% have had at least one dose, and 60% of them have had both doses. 45 to 64, 76% have received at least one dose, and 70% have received both doses. And I know you guys get tired of me saying this, but well over 100% of our over 65-year-olds, according to the state's population numbers, have received their full immunization status. They're both doses. So we're doing really well. Like I said, we're looking above the state's numbers. So I feel really confident going into the fall that we're doing everything that we can to prepare for the Delta variant, for the increased burden of testing, the increased burden of vaccinations. Thank you.
Any questions for Lisa? Chris?
Lisa, on the positive tests, I know you said there's 5. At the state level, I think the last data I saw was 2.5 or 2.8% of all tests were positive. Do you know what our percentage is of positive tests?
So New Milford is at 2.7% positivity rate for all tests being conducted. And I think it's also important for me to know, because I was pointing this out to a couple of other people. Another trend that we're seeing, there's a wide variety of at-home test kits available, the antigen test kits. Those tests aren't reported anywhere. So when you hear about our positivity rate, when you hear about the positive cases and the probable cases, it doesn't include people who are testing at home because they're not required to report it to anyone.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but back in the spring and earlier, if you left the state, you're required to get a test, you do a lot. So more people were getting tested, so the positivity rate most likely would be higher because people now that are getting tested most likely have symptoms. So, I mean, if we were still requiring everybody to get tested, you'd get a lot more negative tests because most likely people were getting tested that didn't feel like they had it, but they wanted to go out of state or want to go to the airport. So that also makes, so that 2% seems high, but it's not as high as the 2% in the spring. Is that?
Because you're talking about because of the volumes of people.
So many more people were getting tested.
So many more people were getting tested, but like I said, it's a lot murkier now because you can literally, I mean, and I'm a great example of this. So, and you guys already know this about me. I've got a lot of kids in my household. We've got a big household. Inside of our the linen closet, I've got a stack of the rapid testing because as soon as somebody's got, practice what you preach. If I see them with sniffles, I'm not sending them out into the world with sniffles. It could be allergies, it could be COVID, I don't know, but the responsible thing to do is to test. And I don't necessarily want to call my pediatrician and pull them in for that. So, I mean, I'm in that group as well.
With the high percentage of people we have vaccinated, and then you throw in the percentage of people that have had COVID, and so chances are, even if this variant hits people, they're not going to be as sick. They won't be in the hospital if they go as long. I mean, it's hard to compare where we were at last summer, where we had no idea how to treat this thing, no idea how to protect ourselves. Now we're going to be, if you count COVID and people that previously had it, it's going to be a pretty high percentage. So even we shouldn't see the hospitalizations. I mean, I'm just correcting you. We shouldn't see the hospitalizations and people getting sick and that. Also.
Positive things. We are a lot better at providing care for people who test positive for COVID-19 than we were a year ago. What we are still seeing is that people who get hit harder with COVID, it's happening at about the same rate. So people who are getting hit hard, it's about the same rate. And that's predominantly in the unvaccinated population. For people who have previously had COVID-19, we do know that their immunity is not as strong as people who have received the vaccine, particularly towards those variants. So it really is important if you've had COVID-19 to get vaccinated.
There are some studies out there that say that's not the case, but I mean, I'm not going to try and defend one or the other, but I have heard studies, like there was one out of Israel that said, and it was all low percentages, but the people that were getting COVID a second time, vaccinated versus unvaccinated, it was actually a little bit higher for the people that were vaccinated. So I mean, I'm just, either case, both sides are not going to get as sick as.
So what we have seen with the vaccine, that people who have been vaccinated are less likely to have a serious case or to have a fatality associated with their infection.
Yeah.
Just real quick, Lisa, so you said there was 5, obviously 500% were. Out of that 5, were they unvaccinated or vaccinated people?
So when the state reports it, they don't necessarily say. When we do a deeper dive, we did see that one of those cases was a breakthrough case. Right. And of the cases that we've seen since May, we have seen a couple of breakthrough cases. And for the terminology, if anybody's not familiar with breakthrough means that the person was vaccinated, they've received both doses, if it's an mRNA or 1 dose of Johnson & Johnson, and 14 days have passed. So they're fully vaccinated and they still ended up with COVID-19. We have seen a few of them.
Right. And at what age group do you see the increase? Is it like the younger, obviously, they're seeing a lot of the younger ones are not getting it?
Similarly to the nationwide trend, we are seeing more COVID-19 in younger populations. Over the last 6 to 8 weeks, I would say maybe 1/3 of our cases were in persons that were under 18 years of age. The positive piece that I balance that out with is that we're seeing more young people come into the clinics, particularly as we get closer to back to school. I think that parents are taking the message seriously about the vaccine is preventing illness. So it won't prevent you from completely getting sick, but it will prevent some of those catastrophic effects of COVID-19. So going into the fall, I'm really encouraged by that, and I think that will help a lot.
Right. That's why the first question and the second one were kind of intertwined to where the younger ones are getting it more and that age level, and that's why the unvaccinated are mostly, not mostly, but most of them under that age group. And
You
so
are correct.
it's kind of forcing people to say, hey, listen, let's get it done. But I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Lisa? Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, Lisa.
Next, I'd like to do the report from Dr. Levin. So he sent in this report basically updating cases in the United States is over 35 million. Deaths currently are over 610,000. Nearly all are from unvaccinated. Vaccine doses are greater than 340 million. Overall status of vaccinations, 56% of the population is fully vaccinated. 62% have received at least one dose of the vaccine. We need or want to get to over 70% to be fully vaccinated to achieve herd immunity. The overall rate of vaccination and testing is slowing across the nation. Certain states, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Wyoming, remain the states with the lowest vaccination rates, with less than 35% of their population fully vaccinated. There's also led to a huge upsurge in ICU beds. Overall trends, the current 7-day moving average of newly daily cases at 40,246 is an increase of 46.7% compared with the previous 7-day moving average of 27,443. The percentage of COVID nucleic acid amplification tests that are positive, which is called a percent positivity, has increased from the previous week. The 7-day average test now at 5.8%. The average 7-day number of tests reported from July 9th to July 17th was up 599,054, which is up 15.9% from 516,701 for the prior 7 days. In summary, we are on the verge of a very substantial increase in infections, hospitalizations, and deaths driven largely by rising cases in those states where vaccination rates are lowest. This will likely spill over to the rest of the United States. The B.1.617.2 Delta variant is now the predominant variant in the United States, making up an estimated 83.2% of the recent U.S. cases. On a global scale, 194 million have been infected. Deaths greater than 4 million. Nearly all new deaths are from the unvaccinated. Vaccinated doses are 4 billion. Boosters in the U.S., the CDC remains focused on getting the first vaccine rollout. Pfizer and Moderna are preparing for boosters. Overall implication, the United States is at a pivotal moment. The rate of increase of infections continue to rise. We will see substantial increases in deaths and hospitalizations, particularly in those not vaccinated. At the same time, it's clear that vaccine conveys substantial benefits, and consequently we need, number one, to push for more vaccination, 2, prepare for boosters, and 3, take public safety measures where possible, including masking, where crowded places, increased in ventilation, and common sense prevention methods. And that's pretty much what Dr. Levin had given us. I will give you this, and I will send this to the council as well. Katie?
We're going back to mayor's comments?
Yes, thank you.
There you go.
So staying on the COVID numbers, as it is here in New Milford, and this is in totality, not how many people currently have COVID, but have had since March of last year. The state of Connecticut is at 322,141. Litchfield County is at 13,090, which is up 9 from Monday. Hospitalizations for the entire county of Litchfield is at 0. So that's great news. New Milford is at 2,438, which was up 2 from Friday. As Lisa said, we continue to see low infection rates here in New Milford, and that's due to vaccines and people adhering to protocols. Also, as we honored our serviceman here today, over the weekend, I was able to do the same thing with Private First Class E3 Nicholas Klingel and Peter Klingel Private E1 from the Connecticut National Guard. Both are brothers, and we thank them for their service to the country and to New Milford. Also, this past week, we celebrated our continued diversity of our culture and heritage here in New Milford, of those residents. We celebrated the Colombians' heritage with their Independence Day. And we also raised the Belgian flag in honor of their National Day. So again, I want to thank our mayor intern, that's Rose Kelly, for helping us raise those flags. So thank you, Rose. And it's another testament to the diversity we have here in New Milford. So thank you. Also want to congratulate the New Milford Youth Baseball Softball 10U Storm baseball team. They made it to the regionals. They didn't end up winning it, but they represented New Milford exceptionally well, and great job and a great season. Also want to thank the New Milford Girl Scout Troop 40324 as they donated a recycling bin to the Sarah Noble School. So thank you to our Girl Scouts as they continue to do wonderful things for our community. So thank you. Also, I'm pleased, I'm kind of jumping ahead, that what Greg would have done tonight, but he's not here today.
Go right ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. So I want to let us know we had a successful sale of our bands and our bonds. So for those who don't know, bands are bond anticipation notes. The sale to secure $9,300,000 in bands, and that's to finance our roads, bridges, and phase 1 of the library renovation, as well as converting $9 million of bands into permanent bonds, and they were used for roads, roofs, and the library project. The town underwent a ratings review with Moody's Analytics, in which the town's credit rating of AA1 was upheld, and the band review of MIG1, which is the highest rating for bands, was bestowed on New Milford. Moody's cited strong liquidity and reserves, healthy financial profile, and strong residential wealth as key factors in supporting those ratings. The reason why we haven't gotten to AAAs, I've been trying to fight for that for the last 3 years, is because they use what they call an MSA and a regional wealth factor. Because we're in Litchfield County, we can't make that number, so we stay at AA. But where it really counts is when you sell your bonds, what do the investors think? So here's some good news. As a result of the town's strong financial position and management practices, the town was awarded with a borrowing rate for the bands of 0.149%.
Free money.
Exactly right. With 5 firms bidding on these notes, the winning bid went to Piper Sandler. Regarding the $9 million in bonds, there were 7 participants, with the winning bid going to Janney Montgomery at a rate of 1.60% for a 20-year maturity. The rate was 20 basis points lower than the town of Fairfield, which was at 1.8%, which is a AAA town, and equivalent to the 1.58% rate obtained by Bethel, both of whom are AAA rated communities. This is a testament to the strong financial position and management of the town and the direct benefit to the taxpayers in the form of extremely low interest costs, again saving the taxpayers tens of thousands of dollars in interest expense. I want to thank our town department heads, our employees, our volunteers, everyone involved in town government, because it takes everybody to get those rates and our wonderful financial acumen that we have here in New Milford. Library construction update for those that drive by. You see that second floor is coming along well. We've got windows coming in, beautiful site, and we're also doing continued sheetrock, second floor taping and compounding is in progress. Our electric, plumbing, and HVAC rough-ins are in progress. It's a wonderful endeavor, and we have Lauren here, our new library director, who she'll be speaking to us in a few moments. So thank you, Lauren, for coming in today. Also, as we continue to plan and implement our continued responses to addressing our community, especially with COVID, our social services team, Ivani Butera is our director, has partnered with Next Gen, which we're going to be offering financial literacy courses. These are free courses to anybody that wants to do this. It's an 18-week course. It will be on Mondays and Wednesdays from 6 to 7 p.m. Upon completion of the course, they'll receive a certificate of completion and a monetary incentive from the United Way of Western Connecticut, which will help them get on their way when it comes to setting up a bank account for those that want to do that. If you'd like to register, please go to the social services at newmilford.org and register. There's still some room available. So I think that's a great endeavor as we want to bring some more financial acumen to our residents. As we all know, a good way to create additional wealth, to bring people out of poverty, is to know financial literacy and to begin to create wealth through investment. Also want to thank our Senior Center Director, Jasmine Dusen, and the Senior Center team, along with Sacred Heart University, as we did a fall risk event at the Senior Center. And this risk provided an assessment on strategies on how our seniors can better lower their risks of falls. So I thought that was very proactive, something that helped, because I know in speaking with the ambulance department, their number one call factor were people falling. So if we can help mitigate that, you help mitigate broken bones, hips, and whatnot. Also, an update on the MAX Center. So in partnership with the Board of Education, we will be using the front part of the MAX during the day for the Litchfield Hills Transition Center. The Transition Center will be part of the New Milford school system, as it has been, and that prepares young adults with disabilities to become productive and contributing members of the community. We're partnering with our facilities team, with the BOE team, as it were, putting in washer and dryer, household activities, so that they can learn those common practices. So thank you to our BOE team, our facilities team, Jack Healy, as well as we're preparing that for this year. Dave Martin, who's our facilities, kind of runs our facilities team for us, thank you. Concerning our roads, we're still continuing with our road program. So far, as of up to date, 7/23, reconstructed roads completed: West Street, Dorset Drive, North Valley, Burnham, Vista, White Swan, Gregory, Woodridge Drive. Drainage work that we've completed is Dorset, North Valley, Vista, White Swan, Gregory, New Preston Hill Road, and Sawyer Hill Road. Road reconstruction work in process: Station Road, Browns Forge, Long Mountain, and River Road. Chip sealing that we've completed so far this year: Dawns Road, Heacock Lane, Mallett's Lane, Upper Mallett's Lane, Wantonock Drive, Wildlife Drive. Skim paving, to be chip sealed, is going to be Connolly and Outlook Drive. And I want to thank our DPW team and our contractors as we continue to do that work. Also, we did a congratulations to our Park and Rec team, as they did a trivia night last Friday night, and they did the Winter Carnival. It was on Saturday. That was well received. So thank you to Laura Murphy and Santa Claus for being down there. Also, we're continuing on infrastructure improvements. The New Milford High School tennis courts are being done this summer, and thank you to the Town Council and Board of Finance for allowing us to use some of those surplus funds to get those tennis courts in very good order. So thank you. Our Town Hall roof will begin construction in the next couple of weeks. They're going to be, right now, they're looking at some additional scaffolding to put up, so the scaffolding will start there. So the Milford High School roof is tentative for an August start date, and they're working with the facilities team and the municipal building committee and Superintendent DeCorpo on making sure that we do this in a compliant way and a safe factor for our kids while they're being in school. Also want to thank everyone that went out to the Waterwitch Firehouse barbecue dinner. Always good food there. And those funds go to benefit the fire department. Also want to thank our Bank Street Investment Group and Bank Street Theater, as again we had another outdoor movie this past week, and that one was Spider-Verse, and we're going to be having another one this month as well. So it's great to have the people come out and enjoy a safe family movie right on the green. River safety, we continue to monitor that with the help of our New Milford Police Department and our fire departments and our EOC team we again ask people, do not swim in the Housatonic River. Those currents are dangerous. The undertow is like a washing machine. And on top of that too, the bottom of the river has PCBs in it. So please enjoy the river. You can boat on the river, you can kayak on the river. Please don't swim in the river, especially by the dam. Also, tomorrow, the New Milford Police Department will have their new system, operating system called NextGen, will be fully implemented and starting tomorrow. So thank you to our IT team and our police department and NextGen. This new operating system that goes from our dispatch all the way through our records department, our police department, brings the New Milford Police Department in the 21st century. So I want to thank Chief Ceruto, Captain Wilkerson, and our whole team as we have migrated over to this new system. Our youth agency, Jason O'Connor, want to thank him and his team as we started our mental health therapeutic clinic. And that was an answer in speaking with our social services team at the high school in Scotticoke, of knowing that we've had children for the past year have done remote learning. So there's isolation issues, depression issues. So we're helping to combat that with our Board of Education partners. And I know Superintendent DeCorpo is going to be using some of their American Relief funding for a mental health and for a regular physical clinic in there as well. And that's all I have, Katie.
What was Spider-Verse all about?
Kind of like cartoon Spider-Man.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mayor. Item number 6, the Plan of Conservation and Development. We're going to have a presentation.
Pete, I don't know if you want to get the dog park and some of the other small things done. I don't know how long it's going to be.
Paul Murphy, 15 Buckboard Lane, New Milford. Good evening, council members, Mayor Bass, and the public present. I come before the council tonight as chairman of the town's Planning Commission and seek your approval of the 2021-2031 Program for Conservation and Development that the Commission subcommittee has been working on for almost 3 years. Under the previous chairman, Peter Schmidt, a group of volunteers was selected as a subcommittee to review the last POCD, upgrade its information, protect vital resources, and plan for future growth of New Milford moving forward in the 21st century. The group met several times in person, and with the onset of COVID-19 pandemic, was forced to have virtual meetings. The group of individuals spent hundreds of hours gathering information, writing chapter after chapter, designing graphs, cross-referencing material from other contracted surveys, and proofreading to ensure all the information it contained was accurate and understandable. The subcommittee volunteers, some here tonight, all need to be thanked by the council and all the citizens of New Milford for the exceptional contribution of their time and talent in preparing the program of conservation and development. Council members, each of you have received a copy of the POCD for your review, suggestions and approvals so that the document can be brought before the public in August for a PowerPoint presentation by the subcommittee, after which it will be voted on by the Planning Commission, finalized and sent to the state. This 130-page plus document is a window into the future of New Milford, which will ensure it continues to be, as the mayor says, the greatest town in the USA. On behalf of the Planning Commission, I'd like to thank the council for your time reviewing the POCD. I'd also like to bring up to the podium Kathy Sutherland and Nick Pooter, Eva Furman, and Jerry Monahan. These were some of the individuals that worked in the last stages of the POCD in getting it together and bring it forth in a draft. And either one of them like to speak?
As they're coming to the podium for the council's edification, the council does not approve the POCD. It comes to us for us to provide any comments or suggestions. We then endorse it as with comments and suggestions to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission has their public meeting, and then the Planning Commission approves the POCD. Did I have that correct, Laura? Yeah. Awesome, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Bass, council members. Thank you for having us. I'm Nick Pooter. I'm the co-chair of the committee. I'm here with my co-chair, Kathy Setterlin, and also a number of committee members, Councilman Cosgrove, Councilwoman Francis, Diane Clafe from our committee, Jerry Monahan, who did a tremendous amount of the editing and the heavy lifting on sort of producing the document, and Laura Regan, who is the glue that holds it all together. Thank you in advance for everything you did, and thank you to Chairman Murphy. We're going to need a second just to get the technology set up here, and then we'll walk you through where we are in the process and what's happened so far and what the next steps are.
Mike, can you shut off the lights for us? Or just this section here?
So give me one
Behind you,
second.
Michael. Behind you, Mike.
I got it. I think.
Mike, can you see that on the camera?
No, I need to just.
Yep.
Okay.
Which one do you want on front of that?
That's fine.
Sorry, this is not my. I'm a Mac guy, not a PC guy, so I got one typo there to fix.
Mike, is this one better for you doing it this way?
So we're going to walk you through sort of the background of the POCD, the process, and our key findings and goals. Yeah, but I've got a typo on the next line. You got it.
Oh, you made
There,
that?
yep, sorry. So Connecticut General Statute requires the POCD every 10 years. The last one was adopted in July 2010, so we're about a year behind. There is a process in the state law to extend that if there are extenuating circumstances. Obviously, COVID is.
Gather.
Right. We are about 13 months off of that original schedule at this point, and expecting to wrap this within the next month or so. The POCD was submitted to the Planning Commission on June 17th of this year. The Planning Commission actually is the group that holds the public hearing, so that's scheduled for August 23rd. We hope you all attend. We've had a tremendous amount of public participation already in this process, but there's still always room for more input, so if anybody wants to come on the 23rd, that would be great.
Yeah, hold on one second.
Could you just tell her we're having technical difficulties, and I want you to see all the pretty pictures.
So we want to go to, it was, PowerPoint, there you go.
What slide do you want it?
Just start from the top, it's fine. We're just go to the view. All right.
There we go.
So here we are. So background process, we've covered this already. So we also referred the plan to you as town council and also to WestCog for review. We have received WestCog's comments back already. They had some really good constructive comments that we will incorporate into the final version of the document. And we're hoping that you have comments as well, and we will certainly take them into consideration as well.
And Nick, also WestCog, I believe, it's in your folder, I believe, gave this an outstanding. Am I correct, Laura? What exactly did they say?
We should be very proud of ourselves. It's an excellent model.
There you go. Thank you. But the council obviously has the ability to endorse or reject the plan or parts of, and submit comments and make recommended changes to the commission. So anything that you have, we'd love to hear. The POCD is a state mandated program. It's designed to guide community growth. One of the things that Planning Commission Chairman Schmidt said, who was the Planning Commission Chairman when we began this process in 2018, actually, was that he really wanted it to be a document to help entities in town and departments in town and commissions in town make decisions following a guideline. So we have worked very hard to do that, and that plays into consistent decision-making and guiding land use decisions. And we've also recognized that it's a really important development tool to recruit investment in the community. So we're hoping we've done a good job making that happen as well. There are a number of required topics that have to be in a POCD, community needs, housing, recreation, trends and conditions, which of course with COVID is kind of upside down now. But we looked at the long term, not necessarily the short term, so we're looking at the decade-long trends that we've seen, and a lot of that data was produced in other documents and other planning studies that have been commissioned in the town over the last decade, and that's all incorporated. Water protection obviously is a very important part here in Connecticut, conformance with the broader regional and state POCDs, housing, transportation, densities and population trends, and growth management principles, and sanitary and sewer infrastructure. So these are all in the document. So where are we now? We actually began this in October 2018. We had a fairly robust public input session over several months. We were very fortunate to get all of those. We had actually had all of those scheduled, and all of those occurred, all of those public meetings, many of which were in here, and I know a number of you attended. We had a really robust input from the community, and that fortunately all got done before COVID kind of shut us down, but we couldn't get shut down. So we, like everybody else, responded to COVID and how to work like that, but the public input part at least was done. So the next phase of the document was analyzing, developing a strategy, putting together a draft, and we did a lot of that through Zoom and other measures. Presenting a draft to the Planning Commission, and then we're here tonight for you. And then the next steps are the Planning Commission holds a public hearing. Any input that they want to have us incorporate, we incorporate. Then we finalize the graphics, and the plan is accepted and implemented. So that's, we're on the home stretch, and we're all very excited about that. So what did the community say in all these output meetings that we had? Really not things that were surprising to those of us on the committee. Water quality is really important. Farming and the farm heritage in New Milford is important. Open space, the cherished sacred spaces, the green, Candlewood Lake, the Housatonic River, all highly valued, pretty much unilaterally. Those are always the top three. Historic buildings, the scenic roads, the scenic quality, sort of the ambiance of New Milford, which is kind of hard to put in words, but there's you're here when you're here. There was a lot of concern about vulnerable residents. We heard a lot of concern about children who don't have enough food, that we have a very high percentage of kids in the school district who need subsidized food, local food shed, being resilient to change, housing. There's a continued request to have town government even more efficient. I know you work on that over and over every day. That's sort of what this group deals with, and the Finance Commission as well, but that's something that's on people's minds. Jobs and the ability for job training is really important on people's minds. Brownfield redevelopment is important, and we're seeing that happening already, and we certainly have a lot of that here. And economic development and grand list growth, but balanced with all of these other things. So there was not a big push to redesign New Milford. People like it the way it is, but we recognize times are changing and we have to adapt. And speaking of changes, again, looking at long-term trends, and some of these, we've seen blips of these going the other way in the last 15 months. Population is declining since 2000. School enrollment is declining since 2000. Household size is dropping since 2000. Median household income is dropping a little bit. Excuse me, that actually did rise. So we see, again, a question of shortage of rental units. We have a lot of really done a really good job of protecting open space, but again, we're trying to balance that, and job growth has been flat in the town. So this all feeds into, over this process of listening and hearing and talking to the community, what do we want to do? People like a high quality of life for the residents. That's important. We want a strong, diverse economy with a variety of opportunities for jobs, expanded tax base, a variety of housing options. Community character and kind of the culture of New Milford is important to preserve. The historic assets are important to preserve and protect. Open space, and obviously surface and groundwater. This is, again, these are consistent trends that we've seen, and we saw them in the last POCD as well. And farms and strengthening farming as an economic opportunity here in town. taking care of our vulnerable residents, balancing with fiscal realities, maintaining town facilities, and again, you've seen all this already in the package that you got, but transportation, and I think there was a conversation before, Mr. Dunham mentioned the train coming back to New Milford. That was a very common topic that we heard. Making sure the infrastructure is resilient and efficient. Grow local, buy local was a big theme that we heard throughout this, so we want to encourage that. And then sustainable practice and resilient, those are the words that we kept hearing over and over. We want a sustainable community, we want a resilient community. Water resources, we want to really protect the resources we have. The drinking water in this town comes from underground, whether it's from a community well or from individual wells. That has to be protected or we're in trouble. We have flood issues to contend with. We have farms and the viability of farms and the sustainability of farms, preservation of open space, core forests, and managing our natural resources carefully. Community character, again, sort of reiterating what we said before, community and character and cultural heritage of the town. Scenic vistas, there are a number of vistas that were actually specifically mentioned that are in the document, as I'm sure you saw. The village center, there's a desire to kind of grow this and expand on what we have here, which is so great, and making it walkable. And again, sort of this alternative transportation. These are things people, what we really sense is like people want a variety of options here. Community services, again, balancing desires with fiscal realities, maintaining and continuing to work on the town properties, looking at sustainable town buildings and how we can retrofit and modernize through energy efficiency and consolidation and redesign. And again, working with our vulnerable residents and then addressing the needs, the future needs of the town spatially. Transportation, again, a diversity. These are the things that we saw: pedestrian, bus, rail, bike, recognizing that we live in a community that is largely based on a private automobile. Utilities, making sure that we're looking at the future for our utilities so we don't need to do upgrades that are always kind of catching up. Expanding natural gas, looking at how we can reduce energy use and looking at green technologies. This was, again, something that lots of people in the community talked about. And broadband, Wi-Fi kind of goes to Pat Erickson's comment before about having some kind of a communication system for the core downtown area. Housing, diversify, and expand the housing stock across income levels and ages. Senior housing was a very important thing that we looked at, affordable housing. Housing options and densities in the core of the village, and also looking at smaller lot sizes and increased densities in areas that have the infrastructure to support it. Economic development was a big part of this, and we recognize that if we're going to compete with other towns in this region, we have to make New Milford and continue to make New Milford a place that people want to invest. So expanding the tax base, having a strong, resilient economy, job opportunities and training. The brownfields, we kind of hit on this already. Implementing the Riverfront Revitalization Plan, which Rita has been on probably longer than the POCD committee, am I right? So outdoor recreation as economic drivers, and we're seeing that. We see that with the quilt trail already. And people coming and visiting our farm because the quilt is there. And again, quality of life was an important part of why we're doing all of this. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I want to just acknowledge, I mentioned a number of the people here who are here this evening. We had a number of people on this committee, and some are no longer. Peter Schmidt, as I mentioned, was the co-chair, or the Planning Commission chair before Mr. Murphy. And we just had so many people that pitched in here, but there are a lot of people that were not on this committee that really deserve a round of applause. And Laura is at the top of that list. Laura has gone above and beyond the call of duty on this. She spent a lot of her own time on this document outside of the planning office. We could not have pulled this off without her. It was extremely stressful when COVID hit about how we were going to pull this project off. And she just kept smiling and just, yeah, it's gonna work and we're gonna figure it out. And she was just always there for us. Kathy Castagnetta started the POCD. Mr. Devlin, Jerry Monahan, who really stepped up and did a tremendous amount of the editing, trying to get the document, moving along. HVA, and especially Stacy Deming at HVA, who did the mapping. But really, I think we all want to say on this committee is we owe our thanks to the community who came out and came to all these meetings and wrote us letters and stopped us on the street and talked to us and pulled up in the driveway and gave us input. And so for all of the people in this community, the business owners, the people who live here, weekenders who have weekend homes in New Milford, town staff has been just instrumental in getting this done, especially with COVID and not having open lines of communication or broken lines of communication. The various town departments heads especially have just been so forthcoming with information and help and assistance, just getting this over the finish line or almost to the finish line. We couldn't do it without them. So thank you to the town of New Milford for making this happen. And that's the presentation.
Thank you, Nick. So I would entertain a motion
I
to.
saw there'd be some questions, huh?
Yep,
Well,
and
I'd
then
like
we'll
to
do
make a
questions.
motion that the town council endorse the POCD as presented in its entirety.
Second.
Okay, open for discussion. Chris?
I'd just like to make a comment, being on the committee and co-chairs, Mr. Cooter and Kathy Sutherland did a wonderful job bringing the team together, but most importantly, the volunteers, and of course, I mean, Laura did a phenomenal job. As Nick said, couldn't be done without her, but all the volunteers involved, and I don't care what party you're from, and we had some robust discussion, I think it's the collaboration came together, and it was a wonderful process.
Thank you.
I think you all deserve just kudos for everything you did. So thank you.
Dave?
Yeah, well, I was pleased because later on this evening, the POCD recognizes the need for affordable housing and walkability with the town to go with that. And from my point of view, we really need to step it up a bit for that, and I'm very glad this document addresses that, and then it's up to us to follow through. So thank you very much.
Certainly. Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Monahan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two observations. One, I was vice chair of planning in 1997 and chaired the POCD committee then. This POCD is substantially better than that one and incredibly better than the 2010 version. Amazing job. And the other observation, POCD is a guide. Once it's out, it falls on you to make it happen, to push the departments and the commissions to follow through and do what the POCD recommends.
Thank you, Mr. Monahan. Any other comments from the council? Mike?
Yeah, just a quick one. It was a good, it's definitely a great document. As David said, affordability to live in New Milford is huge, but and creating jobs and development without changing the character. And I think you guys did a great job addressing that, because New Milford, I mean, unfortunately, we're not 5 minutes to 84. If we don't have good character and jobs in this town, it's hard for us to grow. I do like how this and the affordable housing thing we're going to touch upon talks about how that fear of affordable housing, and it really shouldn't be there, because we need growth in this town, and to do that we do need an affordable place to live. And that fear of, oh, if we have affordable housing, we're going to get too many kids and hurt the budget. And as everyone knows, our school enrollments are dropping. So I think it's something that we really need to address, and I'm glad we're doing it twice tonight. So, but thank you guys, and your work, that we appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I just want to make one.
Kate?
Kathy and Nick, through it all, I know Laura goes crazy, does everything, but you two made sure that it did happen, and you to be commended for that.
Thank you.
Walter?
I just want to say to the committee, comment on my part. And Paul, there are 136 pages double-sided. It may have taken the committee 3 years, it took me 3 days, but it's an extraordinary document, and I want to thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Outstanding, thank you.
Any other comments?
Just real quick, Nick, thank you very much. It was a great thing. And I want to touch on the population that you spoke about shrinking and the age levels of the older ones. I think you said plus 9%, but the enrollment's down with the kids. And I think what you're finding is that the kids are leaving the area because there's not enough work for them here. And I think this kind of a program that you guys are setting up, and hopefully we can bring in more business so these kids stay here. Because a lot of kids are leaving. And so we all know that the population, you need to have families here to support the tax base. Over 65 isn't going to support the tax base.
We want our kids to stay here so they take care of us in a couple
Right. So, but I think that was a key point in the presentation to show that not only enrollment down, but the population of the younger generation is leaving. We need to keep them here to help us in the tax base. But thank you very much. Great presentation.
You're here.
Mary Jane?
I just have a question about the school enrollment, because we all know that more and more people are moving into the town. So when were these statistics put together, and would it be worth updating it?
The statistics for the current the projected populations, I decided that they presented to you for the 21-22 school year. That's where that 33,000 something comes from there.
It's not actual.
And the good news is, with the town council's approval, we now are doing an enrollment study that should be completed, I believe, by the Board of Education. I believe the end of this month or the middle of September, which we'll be sharing with the
That was
council.
part of the procedures with bonding and all that.
Okay, I just wondered if it would be worthwhile to update the figures so that they were just accurate in this.
That's the most recent we have?
Most recent.
Yeah, they won't have them until October.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Who's here tonight from the planning commission? Was John mentioned Levin, Kathy, and Jerry, Diane?
Diane Clafe is here.
We're from the committee, not the commission.
Right, they're from the, so the POC rewrite committee is a subcommittee of the planning commission, so
It's in the
Councilman
handout.
Cosgrove.
They're all in the handout.
Yeah, it's actually on the last
But she wants to know who's here that's on this list.
Oh,
She
so
recommends.
Katie, Chris, Kathy, Diane, Leva, and I think Jerry's was sort of an ad hoc member. Right. We roped Jerry in. I don't think he was officially a member of the committee. So I think that's all of us who are here in attendance this evening.
So you have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your
Thank you
hard
very
work.
much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 7 would be the library grant. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the $18,231 from the American Rescue Plan grants to the Connecticut Public Libraries. This would be used for purchase of furnishings and equipment as outlined in the grant budget, and the funds would be accepted into the account designated by the Director of Finance.
Second.
I'd like to have Lorna come up, and she's our new librarian. We're very excited to have her. She could kind of give us, the council, a little library, a little bit about herself. And we're excited to have you, Lorna, and a little bit about the grant.
And I'm so excited to be here. My name is Lorna Ryans, and I'm coming to you from, I previously directed at the Edith Wheeler Memorial Library in Monroe. And I have been working in libraries for the last 25 years now in just about every area of the library. And I'm so excited and happy to be the benefactor of everybody else's hard work coming in on 6 weeks. I'm really thankful to the mayor and to Katie, to the library board, and I'm sure to so many of you that I don't even know to have put together this beautiful building that I'm lucky enough to be coming into. It's going to be wonderful. There's a beautiful children's room. There's going to be meeting spaces for everybody. You know, we'll continue to offer books and, reference services. There's going to be a reading room on the main floor, and it is going to be a space for every single person in the community. I have spent the last 4 weeks going around and working to meet up with all of the local directors and getting to know people from different organizations, because I want to be sure that we are partnering to build services in the library that meet the needs of the community. And right now, we still have our curbside services, and we have browsing books out front. My staff is working hard to continue in our small space with library programs, both online and also in person for all age groups. And looking toward figuring out how, where everything is going to be in this library, how we're going to put things together, and how the staffing is going to run. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Lorna.
Welcome.
Did you have any questions?
Yes, welcome.
Any questions for Lauren? Any questions on the grant that we're getting? All right. So a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Item number 9, move to appropriate $6,000 from the contingency fund or any other account at the direction of the finance director for the dog park. The funds would be used to help sustain park operations.
Woof.
Is that your second?
Is that a second?
Yeah. Welcome. This is brought forward by the president of the dog park due to COVID, as with a lot of our other nonprofits and some of our town agencies, as you saw, with revenues down. This sustains them for the year, gives them an opportunity to see if they can rebound off their membership. As we all know, there are many people that have animals, dogs, within multifamilies or within the condo complexes, and this is a very safe place where they can go. And the volunteers do all the work in there too. So to me, this is for a minimal investment. The return on the investment is great.
Absolutely. We need to help our four-legged friends.
Any discussion, Chris?
I think the only, I'm certainly in favor of this. If there is an issue, going on in years forward, we may have to relook at this, but
absolutely,
the dog park is a great asset to the town, and I fully support this.
I would support the motion fully if I knew where it was coming from. So if we could make a motion to say that it's coming from the contingency fund.
It did. I did say it.
No, or as the economic director designates. So if it's concrete with the.
Well, isn't it up to the finance director?
Finance director do it, but we could
Well,
we
I
could say
can't support it without that. I know we have.
Okay, so
I know we have money
I'll
in
amend my
contingency.
motion, Dave, and I'll move to appropriate $6,000 from the contingency fund, hard stop. The funds will be used to sustain park operations.
And I'll
Okay?
second it.
Just real quick, I know that nonprofits can apply during the budget discussions, and they can ask for an amount as well. Maybe in the future, you guys could come, and if you knew there's going to be some kind of a hardship, apply for that,
Through
correct?
the budgeted nonprofit line, yes, we put out RFPs well before.
And I think there, in speaking before, Doug,
Right.
The dog park had come before. They were focused on what they had told the town council many years ago. They wanted to self-fund.
Sure.
And just because of this
Unforeseen,
unfortunate
yeah.
COVID, that really impacted things. So they try to go.
I would just like to say that I would not like to see them continue being self-funding. I don't know why the town just doesn't take it on and put it in your budget, put it in the budget every year.
So we could
And
make
you
it. We
talk
could
about
make
that.
a line for that. Talk about
Yeah,
that during
I think
budget.
that might be,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see why private citizens have to, put their own money into this.
I don't think
when-
they have to. I think they
No, I
elected
know,
to do
but
it
you know
30
what I'm
years
saying.
ago.
Like, why
Yeah.
should they be
Right.
doing that when it's a service to the whole town, basically? Anybody could go there.
Well, I think you've heard enough to know that you could come back and talk to us in several different ways.
I think it should be in the budget going
That's
forward.
something that we absolutely can talk about, and I can't thank you guys enough for the many years that you've done it
Right.
Right.
for the town. Mike?
All right, well, first, so every year between this, your funds come from donations from people that go to the park, or?
Yes, and we'd go around to different businesses too, but, the well runs dry with that.
No, I understand that. That's why as a council member and a dog owner, I never realized that was I guess I should have.
I mean, you can walk in the park and most people still think it's funded by the town.
Correct, and that's what,
no matter what signs we put up or whatever.
yeah, no, I mean, I'm a dog person. I have 4 of them. If I went there with my 4 dogs, it'd be hell, so stay away. But, I have to disagree that if something in this town can be funded by volunteers and donations, I'm not saying we won't support it if that time comes and you can go to Katie and ask, but we don't want to keep creating line items in the budget. I think that Pete's done an amazing job, and the rest of us in the finance have done a great job keeping these budgets low. Why would we want to add to it when we've actually had a system in place that has kept it from that? And I think that being able to go to Katie's committee for the nonprofits on the years you do need it, but maybe it's a marketing thing, letting people that use that thing know that it should be more, not user fees, but user, because you're saying it's good for the whole town, but not the whole town uses it. So I don't know why we'd want to create more of a burden on the taxpayers.
Pete, okay, Chris and then Dave.
Yes, just one question. Is this a 501c3
Yes.
organization?
We used to be under the town's umbrella.
Yeah.
It fell apart 8 years ago, and we had to pay for our own 501(c). And now we have to pay for insurance in order to, as well.
Yep, okay, thank you.
I just want to say I agree with Mary Jane. I think $6,000, we have millions left over at the end of the year for the last, 5-10 years. And we just heard a presentation about quality of life in New Milford and to be inclusive of all citizens. I'm a cat owner, but I support a dog park.
Well, I think what's great is we're all, at least I'm sensing, we're all here tonight. And we want to give the dog park the $6,000.
Yes, and
then we can bring them back and we can get an assessment, maybe right before budget, to see what your needs are.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to all
Thanks
volunteers.
I enjoyed the other presentations as well.
Well, don't leave.
There's a lot more if you want to stay.
Show me you really enjoyed it.
As soon as you walk on, we volunteer you for something.
So we'll move on to item 10. I'd like to make a motion to approve for the mayor to sign a contract with NV5 ESG for services for our energy program. And I think we need a second.
We have a second, and we have Doreen here
Right.
from ESG, if we want to answer your questions, and Jack, our Public Works Director. And this was something that was approved by the Town Council and by the Board of Finance. As you can see in your packets, it's also approved by our Finance Director, our Bond Counsel, and our Financial Advisor. It was selected by the bids that came in to ESG to use Bank of America because they gave us the best rates plus additional recs for the energy component. So it made for a great opportunity for a return on investment and get $15 million in capital and use the same operational funds as we're using today on the energy line. Now, obviously we all know that energy increases, right? So if energy increases from today, the differential you'll have to pay. It's not like you're not going to pay extra energy costs as if they escalate. This is what gets you your capital needs for the dollars that we have today. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. All right. So I want to make sure I said it right.
You get your job.
Dave.
Yeah, refresh my memory. Does this include considering solar on school buildings?
Yes, right now this project is about 93 different projects. Of those projects, 23 energy conservation measures. And right now, solar is proposed on 4 of the buildings.
Would you happen to know which 4 buildings?
Oh, sure. Police Department, Sarah Noble.
Sarah Noble?
My mind is blanking out.
How about the high school? We're going to have a roof ready for it.
No, but we just, actually, we just recently put in for more solar recs, and we just were awarded on your behalf of the town of New Milford 4 new buildings for year 10 with the ZREC LREC program. So right now, in front of you, have an opportunity to discuss Northville High School, the middle school, and of course, I'll forget the 4th. But we, on your
So,
behalf, we bid
Hill and
into
Plain.
more.
Hill and Plain.
So, Hill and Plain, thank you, Mayor.
It's okay, you can move here.
So, fantastic news, fantastic program, and we're so excited on your behalf to bid into this second and last year 10 ZREC LREC program on your behalf.
Any other discussion on the motion
So
to sign the
the
lease?
last, what we're discussing is not has anything to do with the new ones that you just proposed, it's a separate.
This planning?
Yeah,
Yes,
Say again?
we're separate from
Yeah.
that, yeah. But we check off some of those boxes, which is great.
And the Board of Ed has signed on to this as well.
Yes, they have.
Yeah, I know there's one fear of the high school, is
Everybody
it's such a
signed on to it.
beautiful building that we didn't want to hurt that aesthetically. So that's just one
That'd
comment.
be a discussion for the Board of Education.
Yeah.
Jerry, what's your last name
It's
again?
their
I'm sorry.
building.
Hamilton.
Well, yeah, it's a symbol of saving energy. It actually shows our students that we
All right,
care.
we'll discuss it, or we'll discuss it. Everyone's got their opinion.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you,
Thank you.
Doreen.
Thank you, we're very excited. Thank
Very
you.
excited about getting the project underway.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10A, the mayor brought up the American Recovery Fund. We're going to have further discussion on the fund use.
10B, right?
I'm sorry, 10B, excuse me. Right. I got so excited about the energy, I just couldn't help myself.
So as we talked about at the last town council meeting, the town of Milford received over $7.9 million in American Fund relief for our residents. And one of the things we wanted to do, as I said before, that these are monies that were not appropriated at budget time. These are monies that are supplemental, and that we do need input, I think, from the public, from the council, from the Board of Finance, and the appropriating body measures. So one of the things I'd like to do is continue with our conversation that was sent to you. What are kind of the guardrails for this? Also, I've asked our department heads to begin to create what their needs are, not wants, but needs that we can bring to the council as we go through these meetings that we have. I've also put together some listening boards of people. We're going to break them up into segments, which would be economic development, community, and professional safety and services in those respects too, so that we can bring that information to our town council, because I know you guys don't have the time to do 10 million things of resources, and then we can talk about it. We're also going to set up joint hearings with the Board of Finance and the town council to hear from the public. And then lastly, as we all know, the mechanism how all this works is that the town council would approve whatever appropriation is. It goes to the Board of Finance, and when this is all said and done, it goes to a town meeting, so that we can have the input from everyone, so that everyone has some buy-in and input on this. So I'd kind of like to just start off quickly. So far, the requests that we have gotten from our departments so far is the health department to provide additional services that are COVID-related and health-related. They're going to be asking you guys for about $240,000, and Lisa will be breaking that out for us for our next meeting. The New Milford Senior Citizens Advisory Board has been supplementing the cost from the culinary school to pay for meals that when our seniors were homebound, to actually get those services and food to them, to the tune of $71,137.75. I would be asking that we use those relief funds to reinvigorate their depleted funds. The Milford Fire Marshal has asked for $15,900 for new air packs. Their air packs are old and antiquated, and that's a safety issue. Also, the town has, through the Social Services Department, they have a revolving fund that's been there for many, many years, this Good Samaritans Fund. Within part of that fund was part of a steep grant that we apply for every year and have been turned down so far. And what that fund we would like to do is to recapitalize that to allow for homeowners that have been affected by COVID and may have lost a job or lost income, and now they need a new roof, or they need a septic tank, or they need a well replaced and do not have the capital to do that. This fund, which we have already, would allow for them to get that work done. We then would put a lien on title, so whenever they would refinance or sell their home, the fund would then be put back in the fund, and then we could continue to repurpose that. Torrington has been doing that very successfully, Waterbury. And the reason that we want to do that is if we have a homeowner that can keep their home, number one, and number two, keep the upkeep on their property, everyone's property value in the neighborhood stays stable. If you begin to see foreclosures in your neighborhood, as most people had experienced in the Great Recession 2002, 2007, 2008, your neighborhood property values go down and it becomes a spiral. So this is a very good opportunity. Another one too is when we were talking to Jim Furlow and our EOC, is we're planning for weather events, and if there's, God forbid, some kind of calamity, where our seniors, especially in our senior housing, whether it be Butterbrook, Glen Eyre, and other ones, where would they go? So when we had our last major power outage with Eversource, taking 5 to 6 days, seniors we had to bring to the senior center. Well, what we'd like to do is provide generators to those areas, for instance, the community room at Butterbrook, so that they don't have to go anywhere. They go right to there, have immediate service, so this could help fund that as well. I'll be getting the cost breakdowns for that. The next is economic development. One of the things that was just mentioned here in our POCD is maintaining a strong workforce here in New Milford. So we could do workforce training in tandem with our Northwest Investment Board as we're doing now, but we could do more, so some of that money could be going for that. Also, as we're talking about tonight, a little bit later, is our workforce housing fund that we're looking to create. Maybe putting some money in there, some seed capital, and we can talk more about that. As far as more economic development, I will be bringing more forward to you at our next meeting. Also, our community kind of working group will bring some of their recommendations. Also, when we've been talking about infrastructure, I'll be doing the same. And as far as with broadband that we've been talking about, it's talked about here, we've been working with WESCOG, which is the Western Council of Government, to set up regional broadband. With the more people that get involved, the lesser the price may be, and I'll be bringing more of that information as it becomes available. So with that, I'll open the floor up to any comments. Dave?
Well, I think those to consider, and many other towns and even states have done this, is providing hazard pay for our first responders. And that would include the police, the fire department, the ambulance. I know we have approximately 35 police officers. I don't know how many firefighters were involved, but they put their lives out there, and certainly we heard from the ambulance during COVID. And I would propose, I'd love to give $1,000, but I'll settle for $500 straight out of the get-go for hazard pay. San Diego has done this, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Metro Nashville. The list just kept going, so I'll stop there. And I think that'd be very prudent. They did this without question in helping us, and I think that's one way to say,
Dave,
we do.
piggybacking on your comments, it also says the American Relief Fund, they have the ability to not only help supplant our first responders, but our critical workers.
Mm-hmm.
So would you also be thinking about helping our critical workers?
Exactly.
Okay.
This is a starting point.
Yep.
A starting point. And, $500, with 70 people, you're talking 35,000 out of 7 million. I think that's an obligation of ours.
Chris?
A couple things. For me, I want to make sure, two things. One, that we're not spending money on something that goes in an operational budget and then becomes a budget issue later after these funds out. I think it's crucial we don't do that. The other thing I think it's important we do, I read, and thanks for sending the American Rescue Plan Toolkit out to us. But one thing that concerned me is that the guide rails that they're putting in, there's some ambiguity to it in terms of how the bills are written. But it also states in here that if you put money towards something and the federal government, and you think you're within the guide rails, but later the federal government thinks you're not, you then have got to pay that money back.
Right.
So I think it's crucial that we get, and I don't know if it's Attorney DeBella or we get rulings on these that, yeah, this definitely fits in.
So Randy, with Councilman Cosgrove's concern, what do you think, I know this is at first blush, what do you think we could do to kind of mitigate that? Would it be sending that question to OPM, to the Treasury?
Well, the concern, not to be cynical, but the concern I have to send it to OPM is you're not going to get a straight answer. However, there's got to be a regulation somewhere along the lines in the Code of Federal Regulations. So I think if you look into that, we might be able to see what the discussion was. We'd also look at the legislative intent when the discussion occurred on the floor. I'm not being cynical. I would not rely upon an agency. I just wouldn't. So I would suggest that. We could then create a matrix as to what applies, what does not apply, and then we take our chances with the bureaucrats. That's my recommendation. And that question is not new.
Thank you, Randy.
Dave?
Mayor? I agree with you. I think that we're not the only ones in this rodeo, and other towns and municipalities, as I referenced from my proposal, others are doing it, and I don't see any of ours that have been stated that are out of the ordinary.
But as you all know, that caveat's in there for a reason. Because they have the right to say, no, that doesn't fit.
Yeah, I understand, but.
So we have to just be very cautious. I don't
Yeah.
think, as Randy
No,
just said,
I-
that anybody's ever gonna define it for us beforehand. The way you're gonna find out is when it's
But
rejected.
I'm sure other towns will.
Yeah, so we
have
can
the
listen and
same
see what happens.
No, and it's gonna be, if you try and go after the letter of the rule and do what you're supposed to do, it's gonna be fine. I mean, they have so many they're gonna check. Unless you do something blatantly wrong, I don't think they're gonna be able to go through everyone's line item. I think if we just try and do things what we feel is right, I think in the long run we'll be okay. And, because as Randy says, we're not gonna be able to go, is this good, is that good? It's just, they're never gonna have time to do that, so there's trust.
There's no time limit on them doing it, that's what I'm saying.
So if they come back and do it, then.
You could have built whatever it was, and then they could say, I'm sorry,
10 years
that
later.
doesn't apply.
Yep.
But
No buts, that's what they could do.
They can do it, but we still have to make an educated guess that what we're doing is right and follow
Well,
the
we're
letter
just
of it and
talking
move
about it
forward.
for the first time. I think we got a lot of time to educate ourselves.
So I know that there's going to be 2 payments within 4 years, right? It's like 7.9 of
We
change.
get
We're gonna
half
get
and
our
half.
first payment we've already received.
Right.
We get our second payment sometime next late spring, early summer.
No, and I know there's a lot of people, like David said, this is a good idea, we'll give money here and there. Do we have some kind of a game plan? Are we going to set up a committee to where we find out?
Yes.
Or where we're going to do all that
I think
stuff?
as a council, we're doing that now.
Okay.
So the goal is to filter as much information to our council as we can, giving the council and the Board of Finance the expertise of what, because this is going to be a legislative body that approves or denies it, the same with the Board of Finance. And then it goes, at the end, it's going to go to a town meeting.
Right.
And at the end of the deal, the public is going to want to
Right.
opine on it.
So we need the
Because
public to come
I
and
just
talk
don't want it
to
to be
us.
every 2 weeks somebody says, oh, by the way,
No,
I got an idea
no,
for
it can't-
another 40
It can't go
grand.
that long.
Okay.
We have a criteria to meet
Right.
with where we put in
So
an
what is the
outline of
timeline?
what we want to do.
What's 4 years, isn't it? The timeline?
That's to use the funds.
Right, that's what I'm
The funds
There's
have
a
to be
much
obligated
closer-
by December
There's-
31st,
that's right. There's a much-
2024, and then it
But
has to be
there's a-
spent by 26.
There are criteria about submitting what your plan is.
Okay, so that's
So
my
there's
question.
guardrails that talk about submitting the plan, the initial plan, what
Right.
you're looking to do. Then you have to give updated timelines of where you are in the process.
That
It
was my
was on
question.
page
This is
7
a
of the
plan, okay.
toolkit.
So we have to come up with a, okay.
So it's,
So that-
I get what you're saying.
And nothing is more important, in my book, than having the public input. So
Sure.
we have to first,
Absolutely.
the mayor will put out what because it's easy to say, gee, it'd be great to have this or this,
Yep.
but there are rules, and we have to follow those. So once that goes out, I think hearing what the people that live here
Yeah.
want to do, because that's what we have to filter down, and just like Dave's idea or yours, anybody's.
Right.
Is
We want it to be their wish list,
Right,
not ours.
as long as it's not something, very important, Chris, what you said, that it's not something that we say, wow, we can have this, and it's only X, and we can get it. And then we find out in 2 years that, well, the upkeep of X is Y.
Right.
And that's a burden on us.
Right.
So that's a very important thing.
I think Doug's got a point, though, setting up a committee, because we might have some people coming to talk to us at every meeting asking for money, and that could
No,
get.
that's not how it works.
I
At
would say
a
how it
public, at a public meeting, joint meeting of the Town Council and Board of Finance, we will hear from the public.
Right.
They will tell us.
The public can
And
speak at
didn't you
committee
just
Sure,
mention
yep.
that you were setting up a,
Yep.
Yeah,
yes.
then I don't have to be there.
And then, also, just so the public knows, these are what you can't use it for.
Right.
Right?
That's very
So we know ahead of game.
Yes.
So if you're thinking about coming in, because this appeals to you, you'll know right away that you can't use this money for it.
Right.
Will this be
Paying
posted
down-
on the web? I mean,
Yep.
just- yeah.
Paying down unfunded pension liabilities, applying as matching fund towards other federal grants, paying interest or principal on outstanding debt, or for consent decrees or legal settlements, contributing to any rainy day funds. Also, you cannot reduce your taxes with this money.
Can't get a new car?
Well,
It's for emergency something during COVID.
okay. Do we have any, Mary Jane?
So I brought this up the last time, and probably, I guess this is gonna fall under social services, but I would like to make sure that there's gonna be something in there about evictions, because the moratorium has been lifted.
Absolutely.
And there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be without housing, and which will increase our homelessness in town, and I think this is a very critical piece that, you know, we need to cover some of these evictions, so we can keep these people in their homes, and I think that would be a really great part of the social
Mary Jane, has it
services.
been lifted or is it coming up lifted?
I think it's been lifted.
September, I thought.
I thought it was
Randy?
lifted already.
I think it's September.
I think it's September.
Is it
I think it's
September?
September.
Okay. It's pretty close.
And I think that might get extended as we're seeing this increase. You might see,
It's possible, but if it's not,
Yeah, I
there's
agree.
gonna be a lot of people in trouble.
I agree.
As a landlord, though, it's hard that this thing keeps going on. I understand why they have it, and evictions in the state take a good 6+ months, so it's very difficult for landlords that are not getting paid, trust me.
I understand it's difficult for landlords, but it's really difficult for somebody to get thrown out on the street and not have a place to live.
Well, we want to save the landlord the process as well.
Well, that's fine too, because the landlords.
I mean, this is a win-win situation.
The
Yeah, it is a
moratorium, but the
win-win
banks aren't
situation.
releasing them. I mean, it's a separate
You know,
subject, but it's
if
not just
the
one-sided.
eviction, you know, the money gets covered, then you're in a better place.
That's right.
Do we have any other discussion for this evening on?
No,
All right.
I'm glad to have you post the guidelines and any ideas. I think we have
Absolutely.
a
Are
the
fluid,
guidelines posted
a
already?
fluid thing that the website would
Posted.
have an area where you could post the things that your department people have brought, the things that council people have said, so that it would reduce duplication. Wouldn't someone want to come and say to us what Dave already said or whatever? They could just write you a note and say, I agree with Dave. And just to make it, because we do have a time constraint and we do want to make sure that it gets out to everybody. To me, I think that's the most important thing. I'd hate to hear grumbling that, oh, nobody asked me.
And for those listening too, you don't even have to come to a meeting if you want to express it via email.
Right.
You
Town
can
council.
email towncouncil@newmilford.org, and that goes to all the council members. So you can give us your opinion in that way too. Okay, next, Katie?
Great, okay. 10C is to further chat about the affordable housing plan. And this is the plan that's required by the state of Connecticut.
When is this required to be finished, you know?
Pardon?
This has to be done by a certain point, correct?
We have to reach a certain level. I don't know that there's a date on it. And I believe in our packet was the more information about
Yep,
this,
this is the
right?
plan.
Yep.
Yep.
Which everyone
We had it last week.
was asked to
Yep.
review.
So I'll open up the floor to any council members to begin the review. Anybody have any comments?
I'll open it up and say,
Okay,
it's
Katie?
about time that we paid attention to this, and it's unfortunate that we may be forced to do it because we haven't been able to meet the criteria, the percentage, but affordable housing is.
Can we please put the
Dancing.
phones on silent,
Dancing.
please? For the rest. Thanks.
Affordable housing is more than what it used to be, and when I hear people say that it's, we don't want that in our town, I think, we have your kids, anybody's kids come out of college and they can't get the job they want right away, even if they could, they have to be able to afford a place to live. Not everybody wants to live with their parents forever. So there's just one little
Especially the
area,
parents.
right? And we have a lot of people who work in this town, in some of our larger stores. They don't live here. They, number one, can't find a place, and if they could find an apartment, they cannot afford it. So they get back in their car or the bus, and they go back to Danbury or Brookfield and Newtown, and that's where they eat, buy their gas, et cetera. So there's a lot more to having affordable housing than if you just stop and think about it and look around. I'm sure we all know people who could use some affordable housing. That's my comment.
Chris?
I guess my thoughts are, one, I think if you look around the general area, in terms of affordability, New Milford is already more affordable than a lot of other towns in this area. But, I like the idea of, and I don't want to get into the semantics on words, but workforce housing.
Yes.
That sort of, like what Habitat for Humanity does, they do a wonderful job. I think that's great. We need to encourage more of that. What I don't want to do and what I don't like about this report is they're asking us to really just throw away a lot of our zoning regulations in this. There are things as of right. I don't agree with those sort of things. I think we have zoning regulations, just allowing people to willy-nilly, put apartments here and there in any neighborhood that they want without going through zoning for some sort of waiver.
But
is not where I think we
that's
wanna
in there
go.
because if you don't do what you should do based upon the criteria, right, the percentage that we have is less than what we should have, this is how they make it happen. So.
That's what the state is trying to do to us.
Just saying that if
We have the opportunity to opt out of that.
So Chris, not to interrupt you, but Randy, for the edification of council and for the public, this affordable housing plan in no way circumvents any ordinances or state statutes as far as what complies with zoning.
No. I will tell you this, this highlights the fact that the definition of affordable under the statutes is not the real world definition of affordable. You need to know that. CEO Regan and I just today talked about the incrementalism of what's going on in Hartford. If it's not deed restricted, it doesn't count. Well, that's not real world.
Right.
But that's what this, Dr. Poland was limited to what the statutes said. So that's the calculations that he made and that he based his conclusions on. There is workforce housing, which is laced, the language is laced in here. It's laced with language of workforce housing. Workforce housing in Kansas, in Missouri, in a lot of states is considered affordable ipso facto. The Connecticut does not define it that way. So it's a matter of perspective among individuals, but it's a matter of legislation among the states. So right now, natural affordable housing does not count toward affordable housing in Connecticut. And he had to recognize that here. That's why that's the way it is.
Thank you, Randy.
No, go ahead.
Just along those lines, it's that, we're, according to this, we're at, almost 5% of the 10% we need that's deeded or, meets the mandate. So, correct me if I'm wrong, until we meet that, you can bypass, even right now, before this exists, you can bypass local zoning regulations if since we haven't met that 10%, is that correct?
Here's the situation. It's not a magic number. What it is that when somebody, E.O. Regan is so familiar, she could write a book. But the reality is that when someone makes an affordable housing application, essentially, Your zoning regulations only apply if it's a matter of public health,
Right.
health, safety, and welfare.
Like having a sewer that can pop,
Things of that nature, traffic, things of that nature. That this happened in Newtown, it even happened in Reading, by the way. So the regulations still exist, but they only apply if it's really a matter of safety. And that's subject to review. And it's the burden's on the commission, not on the applicant, to show that that applies. That's when an affordable housing regulation, application comes in, then section 8-30G of the statutes kicks in. It's it is automatic. Laura can tell you it's automatic. Yes, that's exactly what we do. We look for the affordability plan, we look to whether or not it complies with the basic health and welfare and safety issues, but it's going to be hard put to deny it unless it does. Having said that, at least 30% of the properties have to be deed restricted.
Yeah.
Which affects somebody when they're trying to trade up.
Yep.
So it's really it's kind of a milieu that it creates a difference with a distinction, you see. It's the house next to you could sell for $340,000, the affordable is limited to $308,000.
And Randy, just for the edification, and then Mary Jane had put her hand up. For edification of the public that's watching here tonight and also on the stream, affordable housing has many components to it. Most people think it's like a Section 8 housing,
No, that's government subsidized housing.
which is government subsidized housing.
Right, that's different.
Affordable housing has a component in where you have to meet, am I correct, Laura? The median income household, a certain percentage of it. And in New Milford, I believe it's what, 80%?
So it's 30%, as Randy said, 30% of the units have to be affordable. Of those 30%, 15 have to be at 80% of the area median income, the other 15 at 60% of the area median income, or state level, whichever is less. And I think right now, the area, 91,000 is the area median income number we're using right now.
Yeah.
So Laura, could you again repeat that for everyone? The median income that we use?
$91,000.
So that's that's for a single?
That's typically for a household of 3.
For a household of 3, bringing in 91,000, then you take 80% of that, and that would qualify you for getting into one of the properties that would be built. So these are working families that are coming in and just need an affordable place to live. And they use that parameter, right, to make sure the debt to income ratios, which are called DTI, are not so high as that when you go into a house, you're automatically underwater because your payment, whether it be your mortgage, which is principal and interest taxes, or your rent. So they're trying to build that stabilization within the community. So that's what affordable housing is. It's not part of federal subsidized housing, which is
Federal
different.
subsidized, that housing is pretty rare in this area because there's not enough land. And we have a relative income, stability of income, that will lend itself to affordable, would not really for subsidized. Nobody's gonna invest in that, no builder's gonna invest in that. But the fact is that it's not the same thing, and that's a common misperception.
That's right.
Mary Jane?
So, a couple things. I know probably a lot of you don't know, but I am president of New Milford Affordable Housing, Inc. We are totally separate from the town of New Milford. We've built 2 projects. We built Indian Fields. We have 44 units over there of affordable housing. And we also built at Thomas Lane, Brookside Commons, which is supportive housing. Most of the, so there's 12 units there, 10 are supportive and 2 are affordable. So I just want people to know that Indian Fields, that has the 44 units, has a big waiting list to get in there. It's huge. So, there is a big need in New Milford, and the supportive housing, we also have a waiting list to get in there too. And the supportive housing, the beauty of the supportive housing is that most of the residents there get what we call wraparound services. We have ARC out of Danbury that provides case management. So these people that typically have, they're actually people from New Milford, homeless people right out of the shelters that are getting these services. They have drug addiction, alcohol addiction. We have families in there of domestic violence that have been, families that have been in shelters that are now in there, and it's a thriving little community, believe me, and there's a big need even in New Milford for this supportive housing.
Are they rentals that you have, or are they ownership?
No, they're not ownership,
Oh,
absolutely
so
not. Yeah.
I was just curious.
No. So, the other thing I want to address also is that we talked about this the last time, Pete, and you brought up about somebody who improved their deed-restricted house that's deed-restricted to affordable housing, and like they did improvements, and it sounds like they're not happy that they, can't sell it, at a higher price and make money. But the beauty of a deed-restricted affordable housing property is that if you get to that point where you can move out of that house and move and buy a better house, that the beauty of that is that the next person coming in can get that house at an affordable rate. And this is determined by the Department of Housing, and it's a really great tool for people to be able to use. So like, I know you talked about getting that changed, but there's a real reason. The reason is that there's somebody else waiting out there to come into this affordable housing, deed-restricted property. And great that somebody fixed it up and made it better, but when they bought the property, they knew what the restrictions were. It's not like it's a surprise and they want to sell it for higher money. And so, a few other things about this, that this was handed out. I have an objection on page 4 that it refers to the poor, working, and even middle-income families. I would like the word poor stricken out of it.
Absolutely.
I think it's politically
Right.
incorrect, and it should be
It's
lower
ancient.
income.
Right.
Yeah. It's just totally inappropriate at this point. And,
That's right.
I understand that, the people who drew up this, maybe are not socially, sensitive to that, but as soon as I read it, I was like, oh, that has to go. Another thing I wanted to talk about was being able to expand to provide full property tax relief for any nonprofit providing affordable housing of at least 50% of their units to those below 60% of the AMI. And I hope maybe you will take this into consideration, because we're not running these properties at a profit. There's no way they're running at a profit. We're like barely breaking even. And one property we're a little bit below. A lot of these residents have issues. We had a fire like 6 months after on Brookside Commons. We had a fire 6 months after we opened, and unfortunately, it wasn't so much the fire damage, it was the water damage from the sprinkler system that took out like 5 or 6 units. So that we couldn't rent, bring somebody in there for a while. So, we have the need in New Milford. It's here, it's big. And no doubt with more evictions coming, and who knows, with another wave of COVID, where we're gonna be. But those are my suggestions, so I hope you will take into consideration the tax break. So.
Okay. Abe?
I'll defer.
Okay.
I first want to
Mike?
thank Mary Jane, sorry, I almost said Mary. Thank you for that. That's amazing what you guys do. I didn't realize you guys did that. That is such a need. There is the need for affordable housing in this town, and I almost wish we could change that name, because there is a stigma to it, and it is so different than Section 8 or, subsidized housing, that it's needed, and we have to figure out a way. It is sad, though, that there is a lot of affordable housing in town, as Randy pointed out, that doesn't meet the deed restriction, so it doesn't help us get above that point to where we can actually have control over our own destiny. But that the one thing I do feel that we should, and I don't know how it can be incorporated here because the state's mandates, but I don't want to lose any more of our ability to control our own zoning. And I mean, but the only way that can change is legislation, active action, and that's just to pull a top table even though it needs to be looked at and changed, no one's willing to do it up at the state, because it just doesn't look good. And that's the part that kind of puts us in a bind.
I'm going to get back to what Katie said. It's long overdue, and it's about time. And I think we should move forward on this. I think we should move forward on this now. But I think we need to also look and see that this is, again, it was referred to in our POCD several times and in several places. Our next item deals with having the trust fund set up, the housing trust fund, which the mayor proposed funding with some seed money, and it's a one-time job, and to help out with these transitions or even obtaining. And I think if we look at it, that whole picture, then yes, I think we should move forward immediately. And yes, Mary Jane, thank you very much for an update on that. I think most people don't realize
Yeah, I don't think they
that,
realize it either.
that's there. I mean, we're coming to terms that there's a need. And Katie pointed out very well, you know, a college kid moving here, well, you need first month's rent, last month's rent.
That's right.
Okay, and a security deposit. You're talking $10,000, $12,000. I know, I've done enough co-signing on apartments, thank you very much. So, and so I think we should move forward this evening.
Yeah, I'd just like to make one more comment. Just so you know, we have people that grew up in New Milford, went to through our school systems, that live in our affordable housing. And people who live in affordable housing also have to have a job and a car if you need. There's no there's really not great transportation in New Milford, so public transportation.
Right.
So, these are working people,
Yes, the logistics of the largest town and area in the state are that where we might have an area for some housing like that, you need to have your own transportation. Or we
Right.
need to do something about the public
Right.
transportation to get it up there, or over there. But it's just a fact of life, that we have this great area, and you have to walk or hitch a ride.
It's tough. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Question, page 21, says, past case law and recent legislative changes have made the inclusion of minimum area per unit requirements illegal. That is true? That is true. Okay. Okay. And I just want to reiterate, I just want to make sure I'm clear that anything in here, I look at things like allow duplex units in all residential zoning districts as of right. If that's not in our zoning regulations now, I wouldn't support that sort of change.
These be minimum lot area or minimum living area requirements?
No, the allow duplex units in all residential zoning districts as of right.
If you do not allow that currently, that is something that we are discussing both with the commission's attorney, Randy DeBella, and the zoning commission. There's an opt-out provision for that.
Got it.
That would be discussed by both the zoning commission and the town council in order to opt out. It's a two-step process. So right now, the zoning commission is deciding on how they want to handle those changes.
Neighborhoods.
Chris, any other comments?
Nope, that's good, thank you.
Dave?
I was just going to call a question.
There's no motion.
Oh.
We're just
There's no
discussing.
motion. This is only discussion. I would have said a lot more, Dave, if we were at that
I think, Dave, this gives people that are watching the
Right.
video a chance to digest what we're having our conversation. We're going to bring this back at the next council meeting for further discussion, but it gives everybody a chance to kind of
Weigh in.
weigh in.
Is this draft available on the town
Yes, it is.
website? Yes, so
Yes,
I
it
would
is.
encourage all people who think that poor is still a word to use, and people who think that affordable means Section 8 of old, and that we would be, causing tenements to be put up in New Milford, I think should read this, look up the words, the definitions you don't know, listen to what Mary Jane had to say about what we already have in our town, and why it works and why it's needed. And, so you make an informed decision. I say the same about all of us at this council table as well. This is a very important, we do a lot of important stuff here, but this is really an important decision because there are a lot of ramifications that are not attractive necessarily, but there are some that are necessary, and it's time for us. So that's my comment.
I'd just like to say one more thing. This says a lot about who we are.
Yeah, exactly.
That we care about our residents and their needs.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay.
All right.
Next.
Let's move forward to item 10D, and I will make a motion to, to move on the creation of a housing trust fund.
Second.
Any discussion? Hey,
Yes, and I think we can consider some seed money from the COVID funds, and I think we should also, at the end of the year with the surplus, revisit that situation as well and make it healthy so that we can have many residents take advantage of it rather than just one or two.
and I think that would be an opportune for the council and the Board of Finance at the time, if they do have that, to consider an appropriation such as that. One of the things that I would like to mention is on 2-137 expenditures on the line here on the second page. It talks about the approval of a workforce housing subcommittee. Herein is a WHS of the town council appointed by the mayor exclusive for costs associated identifying, locating available properties, lots, parcels, etc. When I brought this forward to the housing partnership, they were asking, could it be the housing partnership, of which I said they could be a definite part of it, but I also think we need the flexibility of having somebody from the finance department on it.
Absolutely.
From the Board of Finance, somebody on there, but everybody gets the opportunity to opine on that. Correct, Randy?
You need somebody who's elected.
Yep.
Right.
Several advocates.
Yes. So just, I just wanted the edification, so. Okay. Any other discussion on it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, everyone.
Okay, and what we've all been waiting for, item 10E, further discussion on the impact of the new marijuana legislation.
So Randy, could you give us an update, sir?
I can give you the update that I have, and that's based upon a lot of consultation with members of the Connecticut Association of Municipal Attorneys. This has been, and by the way, there's a lot more important legislation that's pending that for some reason gets pushed under the rug. But the reality is that cannabis, of course, is now legal. Possession of cannabis, the sale of it will take place next year. It will be authorized next year. That's in order for them to get a mechanism into operation and a taxation scheme. That's what that's for. The towns can opt out of this. The towns can actually legislate by way of zoning or by way of ordinance against allowing the sale of marijuana in the town. To me, the sale of marijuana and the use of marijuana are differences without distinctions. Because there's nothing that says you can't go to Brookfield and get marijuana. So the reality is that it's like a dry town in liquor parlance. So that's a determination that can be made by way of policy. The legislation is very interesting because it seems to be a lot more restrictive than it was with the dispensaries, except for location. I don't know if Laura has had a chance to read this material, but there's a lot of I would say, wishing that went into this legislation. You probably noticed that. So the fact is that this is legal. It can be used anywhere. It can be restricted, just like smoking and drinking. If you don't want somebody lighting up a joint on Lindeming Park, well, you can regulate that just like you can alcohol, by way of rules and regulations.
So Randy, it's funny you said that, because what I'd like to bring to the council tonight is there doesn't have to be approval, but their consensus that we create an ordinance that we do not allow any marijuana use on any town property, including the green,
You have the authority
including
to do that.
schools.
Or within 100 feet of a town building or school.
You have authority to do that.
Right.
We do with alcohol, don't we?
Well, alcohol is different. You can regulate alcohol on town property, but within a certain distance of some place is really subject to the Liquor Control Commission. We don't have that yet with cannabis.
No.
So the fact is that it's my view and again, it's most of my colleagues' views as well, that the towns can regulate this. They can say, there's no smoking.
Sorry, Randy. Mike?
Oh, you can't hear me, Mike?
Thank you, Mike.
The reality is that this is not unlike smoking cigarettes. It's not unlike the use of alcohol. It can be regulated because it bothers other people. You know, your rights go as far as your nose, as long as they don't bother somebody else's. So the fact is that this is not some great watershed. It simply legalizes something that used to be illegal, just like after Prohibition.
That's right.
Dave, I noticed in here that there's a 3% municipal tax.
There's supposed to be a municipal tax.
Okay.
That's not been perfected yet.
Okay.
But
well, we don't have to act on this for a while.
Oh, no, not at all.
But I think that's one thing that we, need to have clarification on, if there's a 3% municipal tax.
But when you read that, it doesn't tell you how to go about implementing it or collecting it.
Well,
right.
And Randy, I just make a comment, I did a little investigation on this, is that there's, you can't charge. You went into a dispensary, they don't take credit cards. You have to pay in cash.
Yeah.
And the dispensary owners then end up with lots of cash that then they have to put in a safe or do something with it before they can get to the bank. I mean, we're not in that mode anymore.
They have to put it into a state bank. They
wait,
can't put it into a national bank.
Pardon?
They can't put it into an
That's right.
National Association bank.
Okay, so that was my next thing. So now you have a guy who's opened up, or someone's opened up a dispensary, and has all this cash. So, not for nothing, but many years ago, that's why banks started being robbed, because they were filled with cash, to the point, of course, today they don't keep that much on hand. So what about the crime statistics? I'm not saying I'm pro or against, but I think there's so many little things about this that if you really read it, that we have never had to deal with. We didn't have to deal with that with cigarettes or liquor.
Are you talking about the jigsaw puzzle last piece is missing?
Yes.
That's what one of the lawyers in my
Exactly.
association said.
Exactly. And it's very easy for, I'm sure, some towns to say, oh, this is fine, let's do this, and they just don't pay attention. Luckily, we are all paying attention, because we don't have a dispensary here, but,
I'm sorry, Pete.
go ahead.
Listen, I think as Randy had said, this is now a legal product. So it's legal to smoke.
Yeah.
So we just have to be cognizant and plan ahead for kind of unintended consequences. So for instance,
those are the words.
well, as I talked
Absolutely.
about for town property, well, I don't think we would want someone that was using recreational marijuana right next to a child that was listening to story time on the bandstand or playing at Youngsfield Playground or skate park.
Right.
I think there's appropriate uses
Or
and
people
places
coming
for
to
the
do
use.
business in our
Right.
municipal buildings
So
or
I think those are
library.
things we need to be cognizant of to make it a regulated experience that is providing security for everyone.
And would enforcement, if we chose to do something like that, put that restriction in, would enforcement then be up to the police department?
I would assume so, right, Randy?
Please, right.
There are
Mary Jane?
so many facets.
Just, where we regulate alcohol in town. So I don't know, I haven't been to London in a while. Is alcohol prohibited there?
Yes.
It is. So it's basically prohibited on the green where,
Well, we have that ordinance
fields.
from several
Well, the
years
green,
ago.
you could do a special,
You could get a permit. Right.
to do
Right.
that if you
But
so
it would, and then, I mean, a lot of places prohibit smoking, like restaurants and whatever. And I don't think we prohibit smoking on the green, but maybe all the places that we prohibit alcohol, we just prohibit marijuana use.
Yeah. Well, currently, as Randy, when I talked to Randy, he said there is nothing now, so.
So you can go.
We're in
ahead.
uncharted waters again.
Right.
But I'm sure you'll keep us updated.
I will do my very best, believe me. I'm trying to keep myself updated right now, Dave.
Randy, where does the public health and safety, which of course rises to the top of so many things when you evoke it, where does that come into play with, for instance, saying, you know, like Mary Jane just said, well, okay, we have places where there's no alcohol. Let's take the green. Pete has a good point. If I'm playing around on the green with my children, I don't want cigarette smoke to come their way, but we don't prohibit smoking cigarettes on the green. So how does one go about making that distinction?
You make it based upon a rational basis. In
Smoke,
other words,
smoke.
we do allow soda being drunk on the green. We don't allow beer being drunk on the green. And there's a rational
Right.
basis. Beer is an intoxicant. And,
Okay.
And that has a potential. That rational basis has been sustained in many states.
So that's what we would.
That's because
that
don't
would
forget,
rise.
being
Smoking
drunk or
intoxicates.
drinking alcohol or smoking weed is not a protected activity. That's not a protected class. So you simply have to show that a rational basis exists for that prohibition.
Gotcha.
And we could write one real easy.
Well, what about the rationale that it's outdoor space? You know, we don't wear masks to prevent, to worry about COVID when we're in outdoor spaces. Does that come in?
No.
No?
We're talking about a class of drug and alcohol, different than soda and cigarettes. Alcohol and marijuana are intoxicants. That's your rational basis.
Okay.
That would be sustained, in my opinion.
That would rise above.
That would fly
Yep.
constitutionally,
Okay.
yes.
Walter?
Back and forth. It's just a situation where it'll have to evolve, and it's going to be trial and error. We may decide some things and go, whoops, this is not working, and go back to the drawing board and start all over again.
Look what we did as a town.
Pardon?
Look what we did as a town since March 6th,
Yeah.
2020.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was all uncharted, and
Yeah.
we were really winging at some of that stuff.
Oh,
But-
yeah.
And we got it right. We got it right. So we're gonna have to trust your judgment. That's what you're elected for, and the basis that we have in the law, and we'll get through it. We'll get through it.
There's a note in here under referendum 83-84 that if municipalities could have 10% of their electors petition for a vote to allow certain cannabis sales. Has that been done yet, or do you know?
Not that I'm aware of in any towns that I've consulted with. And again, don't forget, we have a charter provision, and we have an ordinance concerning the Park and Recreation Agency, Park and Recreation Commission,
Right.
allowing to set rules and regulations for park properties.
Right.
So there's a few layers of difference that we have. And the reality is that unless the camel comes entirely into the tent concerning the suspension of local zoning, I don't think this is going to become a statewide concern.
Well, you know, it was a big step forward a few years ago that we even were able to have an ordinance that allowed alcohol with a permit and the okay of the chief of police and the mayor, the alcohol to be served in our library, at the Max, and some other places. So, you know, there were a lot of people who thought that was quite just too progressive. So this is just another thing about moving forward. Right, it's just another adjunct. I just think we need to just be cautious because there's a lot of people who have very strong opinions, just as.
Well, I don't do policy.
Both ways. Oh, yes.
The town attorney doesn't do policy. I'll do what you tell me to do, as long as it's lawful. But I don't create the policy.
Too bad.
I wasn't elected to
Were
do
you
it.
looking for
bad.
some direction from us tonight?
I just wanted, as
Briefing.
as Randy was looking at, what kind of our consensus is. Is this something that we want to look at? The ability to say, you know, this is a legal product. You could smoke it in your house. I'm sure there's going to be commercial enterprises that are going to allow that and want that. But just as we have people that go and use our green from any age group, any kind of health risk, whatever, that come into town hall or the green or the playground, I think we need to be cognizant and make sure that those people that may be compromised in a way, we provide that security for them in that respect.
And the dispensary is another facet.
No.
Okay, being drunk isn't illegal. Your actions when you're drunk are illegal.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that, I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh, yeah, you can be drunk as a skunk, you're not hurting anybody.
As long as you're not your behaviors are not in
And
conflict.
they're coming, nobody sees it. And they're developing
where you-
ways
yeah,
to
where
test.
you
Where
decide
you
to
are
get
when you're
drunk.
drunk. There's a difference. Where you are when you're drunk.
Yeah, where you decide to do that.
If you're in your house or whatever,
No,
if you're
it's
behind a
your
wheel or in
behaviors.
public.
that
Right.
are- Yeah,
Right.
that's.
Antisocial behavior.
Do we have
Just say.
do we have all of the information that there is available at this time about the dispensary aspect of this?
Well, you're talking about the sale or dispensary in the terms of medical marijuana?
No.
You're using the term, the
Retail.
dispensary term. You're talking retail dispensation. I have no information on that. Because the
about the
legislature
medical?
didn't give us
How
any.
about the
reg-
medical?
Well, medical is controlled by the Department of Health
Yeah, regulated.
and Consumer
And
Protection.
there is a dispensary in Danbury, correct?
Yeah, there's one in Torrington too.
But in 2022, then retail establishments.
Right.
Right.
If granted permission, then become
That's right.
live entities, where then you can have a retail center where anyone could go in.
Like liquor stores.
It doesn't need a medical
Right.
card to go in and purchase.
Right, now, those
marijuana.
regulations haven't been drafted yet by Department of,
Are people allowed to grow their own now?
yeah, you
Yes.
can grow, I think.
3 plants.
2 plants or 4
2
plants?
or 3. 3, I believe.
Yeah, a limited
Who's
number
counting?
of plants.
You know
No,
a
I don't know
lot
how they're
about
gonna, I don't know how they're gonna.
I certainly do.
regulate that.
I'm making my business to learn about it.
I don't know how they're gonna be, I don't know how they're gonna.
Well, I just, I don't know if they're gonna come knocking on our doors, but,
And my grandfather used to be able to make 100 gallons of wine. I guess it's kind of the same
yes,
thing.
yes, yes. It's just, this just points out, though, that, like I said, I'm not swayed one way or the other particularly, but I think it's very important in the long run that we really give this a lot of our brain power before making some decisions. No.
So suffice it to say, the law's been made, but the regulations haven't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There we go. So until we get regulations, we can't really do too much.
And don't forget, you're gonna have zoning concerns too.
Absolutely.
Right, exactly.
Zoning is.
We need
We'll
to
work
see
for
what the
law.
regs are, yes.
Okay. Any other comments concerning item E? All right, next. Update.
And to end our evening, item 11, an update on the bridge program from the Director of Public
Jack.
Works.
Thanks
Jack's
for
got
waiting,
staying
Jack.
power.
5 minutes.
This is definitely going to be as interesting as possible. I'll tell you that. I don't remember when I was in college. Oh, no. Anyway, I guess we have an update on the bridges. We have 4 bridges that right now are scheduled to be constructed. We're going to close Mud Pond, I think, tomorrow, and start that project, and Gaylord will follow that. So those 2 bridges are contracted out and ready to go.
Jack, I'm sorry, which one did you say you're going to start tomorrow?
Mud Pond is starting
Oh, Mud
tomorrow.
Pond, yes, yes.
And Gaylord will follow that, so they'll be sequential. And M&O Construction has both of those projects, so it's a local firm working on it. I think we had a constructive scenic road committee on Mud Pond. We made some adjustments to the design, and I think we accommodated most of the suggestions. Trineski Bridge, that one I'm getting a lot of emails on. I wish I could move it faster. It's with the Army Corps of Engineers. And I think everybody knows, last year we noticed it was shifting. We put a plate on it, tried to keep it open. The abutment started to shift daily, so we closed the bridge. We sent an emergency letter to Army Corps of Engineers on February 23rd, I think. Had not received anything back, contacted them. I won't go into the back and forth, it's really interesting. As of last Thursday, they told us we had to fill out a different form, so we're working on that with them right now. Tamarack Road Bridge, we have, I think I've been working on that since I got here. And it's interesting, again, we had started off with a 100-year floodplain. We went to a 50-year floodplain on the design, noting that it's never overtopped, and it hasn't overtopped this month. We were all done with the design. We went to the last review with Department of Environmental Protection, and they asked us to go and shrink the pipe again. So pretty soon we're going to be back to the size of the pipe that's there and just replacing it. I've actually talked with the engineer. We have a lead on a pipe. One of my concerns is if we don't hurry up and do this, we're going to go through another winter. We just did a repair up there. We found another hole in the pipe last week. We repaired it. I'm getting concerned that at some point we may have to close that bridge in its entirety. Beyond that, I just, as just a general update, we have several roads that we've already applied to the state for funding on. Marial Road Bridge, we have funding on that. That's a state local. It's a 47% state, 53% by the town. WMC is designing that. My goal is that is scheduled to be constructed in 2023. It's going to be essentially the bridge that you see today. I mean, it'll be a different design, but the same position. What I'd like to do is be able to bid that in the summer, order the culvert in the fall, have it delivered, so when we start in April, we would close the bridge, go in and fix it, and get out as fast as we can. Sand Road Bridge, we just applied to the state for Sand Road Bridge. We got awarded that. That's an 80-20 bridge. They pay 80%, we pay 20%. Beyond that, we worked with the state of Connecticut DOT. We are paying nothing for the design. We are working with DOT. We work with them. They do the design work with us, and we don't have to pay. We don't have to pay for the design. That saves us $100,000 plus.
Great.
We also, on Van Car, it's a multiple thing. We have an 80-20 grant on that bridge. Again, the state was going to do the design work for us, so there's no fee to us. We just, last week, issued a purchase order to Heartland Building and Construction to repair the bridge. I think, as you know, it is partially closed. We've gone ahead and we've issued a contract. They're going to come and repair the bridge. After that, I'd like to have it reevaluated. Underneath that bridge, the abutments are in very good condition. The bridge is in very good condition. My thought is I may request the state to change that from a full replacement to a I've done this in other towns, where we just go to a renovation, basically a renovation of the bridge. It reduces the cost by a considerable amount. I'd like to work with them on that because the abutments and the steel and everything on that bridge, other than the one that needs repair, are actually in very good condition. So we'll be working with them on that. Upland Road Bridge, that's another bridge which is scheduled to be done, actually constructed next year. That bridge, the state of Connecticut did the engineering, so we've had no cost, we've paid nothing on the engineering. That is a 80-20 bridge also, so the federal government and state will be picking up 80% of that, and we'll be picking up 20% of that cost. Beyond that, we have many bridges that we're in the process of applying for and getting grants for. We are also in the process of getting, we just finished 11 inspections last year by WMC. We're doing another 10 right now. So all of the bridges will be inspected. We will know the condition of all the bridges and be prioritizing this. And we have right now we have a plan going out through 2025, but we're close to finishing a plan going out to 2031 for all bridges, so that we'll have a 10-year plan that everybody can see. I have an intern working with us this summer. He's developing a proactive maintenance program for all of the bridges. One of the bridges that was listed in the last inspection was Housatonic Avenue Bridge. You may have seen that came back with needing guide rails and scour protection. Today, they finished the new guide rails were installed and finished today, and we are working on a design for the scour protection. We're trying to do that as much of that in-house as we can, or contract it to Public Works to keep the cost down. I think I kept it under 5 minutes.
Actually, it was 5 minutes and 10 seconds.
Sorry, Walter.
Dave?
Related. So how many interns did you have this summer?
4.
4. I think that's wonderful. And what universities did they represent?
We have 3 from UConn and 1 from Worcester Polytech. I'm biased toward the guy at Worcester Polytech, of course.
Yeah. And are they still with you, or they have to leave, or?
Nope, they are with us to the 13th of August. They've been working, I don't know if you've seen them out, they've been working on many of the road projects. We've taught them to do compaction, do surveying for us. They were out today doing grade stakes at Sawyer Hill. They're working on the design for the Public Works facility. They've been working with Lanesville Fire Department on an oil water separator project. They're working right now with the 9/11 committee on design for moving the 9/11 memorial to
that's
another
a lot for an
location.
internship for 4 people.
Wow. They've been working, in fact, and on, I think, the 12th, they're going to give a presentation. I've told them, going back to my college professor days, I'm making them all give a presentation to the mayor. Just to talk about what they've done this year, what they've learned, and what they thought about the internship here at Milford.
Well, they lasted the whole time, so I guess they did well.
They've done, actually, they've done very well. I was happily, I don't want to say surprised, but I was happily that they did as well as they did. They came in, we've had one young lady since April, and she came in and there was no lead time. We gave her something, said, we need you to go measure a road, and she was gone. And she's done a very good job. One is in the senior year, young man who went to Worcester Polytech. He's 6'11". He's a center on the basketball team, so he's pretty noticeable.
You put him in one of your little cars?
No, he takes my car when I get in. I can't reach the steering or anything like that. I have to adjust everything. We have one from UConn she's a sophomore and junior. She's close to being a junior and close to graduation. We've been helping her. I've also helped them sign up for their fundamentals exam. I'm trying to teach them how to get their professional engineering licenses. So I've been working with them, signing up there for their PE license exams. And then the last two are sophomores.
Wonderful. And Mr. Mayor, you had an intern as well this summer?
Yes, I did.
Yes. Could you bring this all to light to us? I
Absolutely.
think it's a wonderful program.
Each year, last year I had, due to COVID, had 2. The year prior I had 4.
Yeah.
And they're mainly from the high school. So Rose is from the high school. She is a sophomore.
That's great.
Very excited, wants to get involved in government. So we're introducing her to different parts of government. We went up to the senior center, library. We're going to bring her down to Pettibone to meet the department heads down there, kind of show her how government runs.
Excellent. I think that's wonderful.
I think we should have an intern, and I brought this up a couple of years ago, that there should be an intern to come and learn. If you want to learn about government, learn about council government. You know, spend a little time understanding what we do to mesh with the mayor. But the mayor takes all of them. So can I make comments, Jack?
Absolutely.
Jack, I wanted 2 things. I thank you very much for doing a program for Rotary. Aside from all the things that you are so good at and have time for, and I don't know how you do that, you and Laura must take the same breakfast food.
He's got 4 interns.
But even when he didn't have interns, but I want to thank you for doing that and answering questions. And I was going to ask you a question, I forgot because we got off on another tangent, but it had to do with the 80-20. Is there a time frame on those government?
Yeah.
So are we in danger of any of these not being able to meet that?
We were in danger of it on actually Mud Pond and Gaylord. We requested extensions and we pushed hard. That's one of the reasons. If you noticed, I was pushing hard to get those in the contract. That was a reason. Mary All, we've requested an extension and we've gotten it. All the rest now are in sequence, and that's why when I meet with the mayor on every Friday, we go over the schedule. We've got them all lined up. It's in the capital plan that we work with, and I've talked to Greg Ossipal, and we're looking at how we fund those bridges and how it fits into the bonding. So I don't think, as long as we follow this, we won't have that problem again. And that's why I'm taking and projecting out for 10 years, so the town council can see. Because right now, it looks, we are spending, on an average, on the local side, between 1.4 and $2 million on the local side, and probably the equivalent on the state funding side. So it's a significant expenditure for our department.
Yeah. Well, thanks for keeping on top of it and straightening it out.
Mary Jane?
I have a question. Can you update the sign at the top of Trinisky Road to say bridge out in 3/4 of a mile?
Yeah.
Because it's really crazy what's going on. People think they can drive like 10 miles before the bridge is out. And the tractor trailers are insisting that they have to come down Trinisky Road and they get stuck. They don't know what to do. So it's been crazy.
Backing up is a long ways.
What?
Having them back up is a long ways.
It's a long ways, right? And they just don't believe it. You know, it's totally crazy. You can't even believe what's going on.
Well, we hope for the next month it's more convenient because we'll be doing Sawyer Hill over and make it harder for them to come up.
Yeah, but if you just put,
We'll put new signs up, yeah.
Bridge out 3/4 of a mile, because
You know,
maybe that would
Jack,
stop them coming
that's
down.
a very good point you bring up, Mary Jane. On who's, you know, where the ball fields are, the underpass? Okay, so I brought this up to former director. There are signs, and then there's there's a sign like between you and me before you get to that underpass, and then there's a sign on the overpass, which the driver of the truck can't even see when he's wedged under there, which happens, but what happens is the bigger trucks, they drive up to it. Now, all of us that are behind them, now they see they can't go under, and they have to back up. Well, we all have to back up, and, sometimes they're not so good at backing up. So I mentioned to the former director, why don't we put a sign farther back so they have the opportunity, where it's wide, where the ball fields are and the empty parking area. And I never got a good answer on that, so I'm going to ask you, since you're able to do so many things. What Mary Jane just said is definitely you don't want them backing up on your road, but if you drive, I know you don't go that way, but I would say at least once a week, a long trailer truck has to get all the way around, because you can't see the bridge until you're right there, and then decides he's got to back up. So, and then there are the people coming the other way who decide that they could fit, while the guy's backing up, and they go through. So, I know you have a lot of important things to do. Just
It's
thought I'd bring
interesting
it
you
up.
mentioned that, because today I was looking over a work plan, and as part of the work plan, they have to give us the route that they're going to take from a local facility to another location. And for some reason, they were going up Housatonic, under there, and trying to go out the Guardsman Bridge, and they were starting, at this end of, and I asked them why they were doing it. Why didn't they just come out, go down Veterans, for some reason, they said that the GIS took them in that direction.
I think it does, and if they're going north, then they can, they can see the bridge, and you've got that roundabout by Medon still. But if they're going south, it is not comfortable for anybody. Just put it on your list.
It's very entertaining to see what goes on.
It's entertaining if you're not in a hurry to be somewhere, but,
Or it's 9:30 at night.
Thanks, Jack.
Well, I think one of the problems is when Route 7 is shut down, that's the reroute that they give them. I know that happened to me once, and it's like, that wasn't good. You had about 3 or 4 trucks there.
Yeah.
with
and
an
Wednesday,
accident.
there's a road closure, correct, Mayor?
Road closure, as we talked about, Mud Pond Road, for the bridge tomorrow.
Yep.
Oh, you're not.
And we
that's
put
it,
the,
Wednesday.
schematic on there for the detour.
Oh, it's tomorrow. I got an alert.
Or Wednesday.
Wednesday, your
Wednesday.
alert said.
And there's also the one on River Road for the tree removal.
Yep, oh, I'm sorry, it's the River
River Road is Wednesday,
Sorry.
and tomorrow
River
is
Road's
where,
Wednesday.
Jack?
Mud Pond Road.
Yep,
So everybody in Gailersville,
so Mud Pond's tomorrow.
get out
River-
now.
River Road,
It's
we have
pretty close.
there's some huge trees to take down on River Road there.
Oh,
that are-
yeah.
That are diseased and need to come down.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight.
Yes.